Chapter 46-67. Fengjiu was refining pills in her space. Just as she was about to open the furnace, she heard Leng Hua's anxious calls and knocks on the door. She hurriedly came out. However, the moment she opened the door, she saw darkness and a little dizzy. She couldn't even stand steadily and swayed with the violent shaking of the ship. At that moment, she felt a powerful force pulling the spaceship forcefully, and the spaceship lost its balance and was sucked in. After a moment of dizziness, she felt the barrier of the spaceship break with a bang, and the spaceship fell down from high place. "Oh no! Du Fan, Leng Hua, quickly stabilize the ship with me. Leng Hua, take care of the 3 children. Don't let them out." Fengjiu immediately shouted. Seeing that the situation was not good, she immediately flew out of the spaceship and came to the bottom of the spaceship to quickly stabilize it. The moment she shouted, Du Fan and Leng Shuang quickly took action. They each held onto the 3 corners of the spaceship. However, even though they had used their spiritual energy to protect the spaceship, they could not withstand the powerful force of the spaceship. As a result, when the spaceship was pressed down, they could only slow down the force of the falling spaceship and minimize the damage to the minimum. Bang, bang, bang. The ship landed on the ground, but did not stop immediately. Instead, it slid on the ground for about 10 meters and knocked down many trees before coming to a stop due to the friction between the sand and stones. Fengjiu, Du Fan, and Leng Hua came out from the side of the ship. Seeing that the ship had stabilized, they finally heaved a sigh of relief. Thinking of the 3 children on the ship, Fengjiu immediately jumped onto the ship. "How are the children?" Fengjiu quickly stepped forward and asked. Only then did Leng Hua open the door of the room where the children were. He saw her hugging Mu Chun and Mu Yu. The 3 of them hugged each other tightly as they sat on the ground. Their faces were pale and panicked. After seeing them, they seemed to heave a sigh of relief and quickly stood up. "Mother!" The 3 children threw themselves at Fengjiu, clearly frightened. I'm fine. Are you hurt?" Fengjiu asked, looking at the 3 children one by one to see if they were injured by the violent shaking of the ship. "No, we fell on the deck and didn't stand up, so we weren't injured," Howard said. "Yes, no injuries." Mu Chun and Mu Yu nodded and said, "That's good." Fengjiu breathed a sigh of relief and touched their little faces. At this time, as if he thought of something, he led them out of the cabin and came to the outside. Looking at this unfamiliar place, he could not help but frown. Previously, he had only been focused on stabilizing the spacecraft that was being flung downwards, so he didn't have time to look around carefully. Now that he looked around, he realized that this place was full of strangeness and oppression. Moreover, it was noon when they were there, but here it was pitch black. The surroundings were quiet, and no other sounds could be heard. There was no spiritual aura in the air either. It was as if they were in a place that was isolated from spiritual aura. "Master," a whirlpool suddenly appeared in the sky earlier. "We quickly turned the ship around, but we were sucked in too late," Du Fan said. At this time, he also looked around and felt that this place seemed a little strange. Chapter 46-68. He went into the cabin this morning and told us not to disturb him. He hasn't come out since, Leng Shuang said as he looked at the tightly shut cabin door. Hearing this, Fengjiu frowned slightly, but he didn't check. Instead, he walked to the bow of the ship and looked around. He saw that they seemed to be in a cave in the mountains. Other than some trees and weeds, they were surrounded by high peaks that reached into the clouds. Du Fan and Leng Hua, you 2 go and check the surroundings. See if there are any people nearby and where we are now, Fengjiu instructed the 2 of them. Yes, the 2 of them responded. They gathered their qi and flew off on their swords. Fengjiu looked at the sky and immediately gathered spiritual energy in her hands to set up a boundary to protect the ship. However, just as she was setting up the boundary, her heart skipped a beat. She looked at her hands and her eyes flashed. "Don't run around. Don't get off the ship." Fengjiu looked at the 3 children and instructed them. "Okay, we know." The 3 children responded seriously. Seeing her walk to the closed cabin door and knock, they followed behind her and watched. Knock, knock. Fengjiu knocked twice. There was no sound from inside. She called out, "If you don't open the door, I'm going in." She waited for a while, but there was no movement inside. Thus, she used her divine thought and pressed her hand on the door. The next moment, she pushed it open. The cabin wasn't small. Other than a bed for resting, there was space for other things. She walked in and scanned the room. Her gaze fell on the figure sitting cross-legged on the bed. There was an aura around the figure. It was obvious that he had set up a boundary to protect his body. At this moment, there was only an extremely weak aura around his body. He sat there with his eyes closed. It was as if he had entered a state of meditation and was not aware of anything in the outside world. Fengjiu glanced at him and remembered some things he mentioned. She stopped and said to the 3 children behind her, "You guys go out first." Okay. Although the 3 children were curious, they listened to her and left. After the 3 children went out, Fengjiu stepped forward and observed him for a while. After confirming that his divine soul was not in his body at this time, she frowned. Without breaking the boundary that protected his body, she turned and walked out. She remembered him saying that because this body wasn't his original body, he couldn't stay here for a long time. Moreover, every once in a while, his soul would have to return to his original body. She just didn't expect that she would encounter this today. Thinking of the situation she sensed just now, her heart sank. It seemed that she had to leave this place as soon as possible. On the other side, Du Fan and Lung Hua, who had gone to investigate the surroundings, were flying through the night on their swords. Suddenly, the 2 of them felt that their flying speed was gradually slowing down, and their bodies seemed to be getting heavier. Something doesn't seem right. Before Lung Hua could finish speaking, his vision turned black and he fainted. "Lung Hua!" Du Fan shouted. The spiritual aura on his body surged. However, at that moment, a dark green flame appeared in front of him and was extinguished. Almost at that moment, his spiritual aura seemed to be suppressed. His vision darkened and he lost consciousness and fell. Chapter 46-69. On the airship, Fengjiu frowned. She looked around and didn't see Du Fan and Lung Hua. She had a bad premonition. She summoned her contracted beasts from her space. Fire Phoenix, Cloud Swallow. 3 rays of light came out. After the light disappeared, the Fire Phoenix and 2 Cloud Swallow beasts appeared in front of her. What happened? Fire Phoenix looked around. When she sensed the aura here, her voice changed. "It's demonic aura." Demonic aura? Fengjiu raised her eyebrows. "I only felt that the aura here was a little strange. Moreover, I gradually couldn't use my spiritual power. I didn't expect it to be demonic aura." Beasts were very sensitive to demonic aura. Since the Fire Phoenix said so, then it must be true. Du Fan and Lung Hua went out to scout and still haven't returned. I'm worried that something happened to them. You guys stay here and guard. I'll go take a look," Fengjiu said. Just as she was getting off the airship, she heard a voice. Wait a minute. Hearing this voice, Fengjiu was slightly surprised. She turned around and saw that the masked man had already come out. Seeing this, she said, "Didn't you have an out-of-body experience before? I thought that you wouldn't be able to come back here." She didn't expect that he would be able to wake up. I also didn't expect that something would happen in such a short time. You were actually brought to this demon realm by them. The masked man sighed and slowly walked out. He looked at you, and paused for a moment. Then he looked at Fengjiu. "I have to take them away. This place is not suitable for them." Fengjiu was silent for a moment. She looked at the 3 children. After a while, she asked, "You said that this is the demon realm? I found that the aura of spiritual power here is restricted. How are you going to take them away? At present, the blood curse on you, and Chun has not been completely removed. The longer you stay in the demon realm, the more difficult it will be for you to use your spiritual energy. Now that we're here, I can still take them away, but it's hard to say if we stay any longer. Also, I received news that they want to trap you here forever. In this place, even with your strength, I'm afraid it will be difficult to open a corner of the sky and return to your original place. I'm not leaving. I don't want to leave Mother. Wherever Mother is, you will be there." You shouted loudly and hugged to her mother's side, tightly hugging her leg. "I'm not leaving either. Mother is in danger now. I won't leave. I want to be with my mother, Howard said and stood beside Fengjiu. I won't leave even if you beat me to death. Muchen also came to Fengjiu's side and held her hand tightly. He looked at the masked man warily. We're not leaving. I will never go with you. Even if this is the demon realm, we still want to be with Mother. We don't want Mother to be in danger. Hearing this, Fengjiu couldn't help but sigh softly. He touched Yu's head and said, It's dangerous here. Sooner or later, you will worship him as your master. Leaving with your master is also a good thing. No, I don't want to, Yu said with red eyes. She looked up at her mother pitifully. Mother, Yu doesn't want to leave Mother. Yu doesn't want to don't. Chapter 4670. Hearing this, the masked man who was about to step forward stopped. His deep gaze looked at the little girl who was like a little beast. Seeing that her eyes were slightly red and filled with anger and vigilance, he sighed in his heart, and a trace of helplessness flashed through his eyes. Only then did he look at Fengjiu and said, Aren't you going to look for them? Go. We'll wait for you here. Seeing this, Fengjiu looked at him and patted the 3 children beside her and said, You guys wait here obediently. Mother will go look for Du Fan and Lunghua. Mother, you must come back safely. We'll wait for you here. Yu's young and tender voice carried a unique softness of a child. With a worried look, she pulled her mother's hand and said, My brothers and I will wait here for Mother to come back. If Mother doesn't come back, we won't go anywhere. Fengjiu's heart warmed, and she rubbed her little head and said, Okay, be good. Mother will be back very soon. She looked at the masked man and said, I'll have to trouble you. After saying this, she took a deep breath and stepped out of the airship and went in the direction Du Fan and the others had gone. Shuttling back and forth in the night, she felt that the demonic aura in the air was getting heavier and heavier. In the night, other than the sound of the wind, there seemed to be no other sound. However, at this time, she suddenly stopped and looked back. At this time, she could no longer see the location of the spaceship, as if it was covered by thin fog. She thought of the 3 children on the spaceship, and then remembered that the Fire Phoenix and the masked man were guarding the spaceship. Thus, she did not stop and went forward. Lunghua, Fengjiu called out in surprise. She saw that the person sitting in the grass in front of her was Lunghua, who had gone out with Du Fan just a moment ago. However, at this time, he was sitting in a daze, and his whole face was lifeless and lifeless. Seeing this, she quickly went forward. What's the matter? You guys met. She pushed his shoulder with her hand, but just as she touched him, her voice stopped, and her whole body quickly retreated. Xiao. 2 vines sprang out as if they were alive. If she hadn't retreated at that moment, she would have been tied up. Looking again, Lunghua, who was sitting in a daze on the grass, suddenly changed into the appearance of a big tree. The trunk of the big tree was about 2 people hugging it. There weren't many branches and leaves, but they were swaying. Lunghua's face appeared to be struggling inside the tree. What a good demonic tree. Looking at this scene, Fengjiu's eyes turned cold. She stretched out her hand, and the Qing Feng sword, which was glowing with a green light, appeared in her hand. As the spirit force in her palm surged, flames surged. The red figure rose up, raised the sword in her hand high up, and slashed down fiercely at the demon tree below. Suddenly, the humanoid face on the tree let out a shrill shriek. As soon as the shriek rang out, Fengjiu's hand involuntarily trembled, and the sword in her hand slashed to the side. Chapter 4671. The sound was like oil coming into contact with fire, producing a sizzling sound. As the flames burned in the air, the demonic aura gradually decreased. Some of the demonic aura and some of the surrounding trees quickly retreated as if they were afraid of being touched by the flames. Even the demonic tree wanted to take the opportunity to escape. Fengjiu retracted her aura and hid in the darkness to chase after the demonic tree. She didn't extinguish the flames on this side and let it continue to burn. She took a deep breath and directly pierced the body of the demonic tree with the Qing Feng sword stand in her hand. When the sharp sword pierced, with a whoosh, green liquid flowed out. At the same time, the demonic tree let out a blood-curdling scream. The body of the tree slowly shrunk until it finally became a human-sized tree stump. "Speak, where's my man?" Fengjiu shouted. She pulled out the Qing Feng sword and pointed it at the demonic tree. As she increased her strength, the sharp sword tip pierced into the human-shaped tree stump. Slivers of liquid seeped out, accompanied by the pleading of the demonic tree. "Don't kill me, don't kill me, I'll bring you there." It hurriedly begged for mercy, afraid that its hundreds of years of cultivation would be destroyed. However, the tree demon led the way in front. As they walked, Fengjiu glanced at the ground without batting an eyelid. She secretly gathered a wisp of flame in her palm. In the next moment, she suddenly struck out her palm and slapped the ground beside her that seemed to be pitch black with nothing else. Bang! With a bang, the palm wind and flames struck down. Following that, a blood-curdling scream rang out. Some black liquid splashed out from the ground. Fengjiu waved her hand and swept the splashed liquid to the other side. The demonic tree wanted to take the opportunity to escape. She coldly snorted. With a sweep of the Qing Feng sword in her hand, she cut off the branches on the human-shaped tree stump. The demonic tree was shocked. It instinctively squatted down. Seeing the branches on the ground, it trembled and turned its head back. It said to Fengjiu, I can't bring you to the front. Otherwise, the demonic king will kill me." "Then you're not afraid that I'll kill you? Or do you want to have a taste of being burned as firewood?" Fengjiu glanced at it, playing with a cluster of flames in his hand, and threatened in a cold voice. Looking at the life, heavenly flame, the tree demon was scared. He shrank his body and said, "No, I'll take you there. I'll take you there, okay?" Only then did it accept its fate and lead Fengjiu forward. When they arrived in front of a big tree, it shrank back and said, "Go in there. It's right there." Fengjiu looked at the place the tree demon was pointing at. It was a huge, lush tree. The trunk of the tree would probably need 7 or 8 people to surround it. The demonic aura around the tree was slightly thicker, but other than that, there was nothing special about it. "Where do we get in?" Fengjiu asked. "Turn left and right around the tree trunk. Then hit the tree trunk and shout open. Then it will open." The dryad whispered as it observed its surroundings. "Underground palace?" Fengjiu raised his eyebrows. Yes. Your 2 people were caught by the demonic empress herself. They were caught inside. The demonic empress loves to absorb the essence of cultivators. If you don't want to see them reduced to bones, you better go in quickly," the tree demon said as it retreated. It was afraid that Fengjiu would come to settle the score with it. Fengjiu glanced at it and followed its instructions. He circled left and right around the tree. Finally, he hit the tree trunk and shouted, "Open." Chapter 4672. It was an underground palace. As she walked down the stairs, she could faintly hear sounds coming from inside. On the walls on both sides, clusters of faint green willow, the wisps floated, illuminating the path beneath her feet. The faint green will-o'-the-wisps glow also added a strange aura to the place. The will-o'-the-wisps danced inside, and there was also a flow of aura in the air. Clearly, this underground palace had more than one entrance. Somewhere, it should be connected to the outside world. Unexpectedly, after she entered, she did not see a single demon. As she walked, she realized that this underground palace led to a cave in the mountain. It seemed that on the other side, a large group of demons had gathered. She stood close to the stone wall, slightly tilting her body to look at the place where the will-o'-the-wisps floated. She saw that the sound she heard earlier was coming from there. At this moment, there were about 100 demons of different shapes and sizes. In the middle of those demons, who else could it be but Du Fan and Lung Hua? Seeing that the 2 of them seemed to have fainted and were unconscious, but seeing them being hung upside down by those demons, a trace of anger arose in her heart. Her gaze swept across and landed on 2 great demons among those demons. One of them was a demoness with heavy makeup and a seductive face. The demonic aura on her body was extremely strong, not to mention her seductive appearance. Just the demonic aura on her body made it hard for people to ignore her. On the other hand, the face of the one at the side couldn't be seen clearly. It was as though there was a layer of mist covering his face. One could only feel a powerful demonic aura emanating from his body. Needless to say, these two should be the Demon King and Demon Empress that the tree demon mentioned. Just as she was thinking about how to save Du Fan and Lung Hua, she heard a voice coming from inside. Why did you bring these two people back? They're the subordinates of that ghost Dr. Fengjiu. If you capture her people, she will definitely come looking for you. Won't you be causing trouble then? The Demon King's voice carried some worry. Looking at the two cultivators who were hung upside down, he said to the Demon Empress beside him, "Let them go. Just pretend that you don't know that they are here." When the Demon Empress heard this, she raised her coquettish eyes and glanced at him. "Put it back. Don't forget that the immortals up there told us to take care of them. If we let them leave just like that, how are we going to explain it to them?" She paused and played with her bright red nails. "Besides, even if we let them go, those immortals won't let us go. Besides, they said that as long as we succeed, we will be rewarded." Oomph. How could the words of those people be taken seriously? In my opinion, they want to borrow the hands of that ghost Dr. Fengjiu to exterminate our Yao clan. Otherwise, why would they send them to us instead of other places? Was Fengjiu a pushover? She's the Lord of heaven and earth. Back then, when the Devil Lord fought with her, he ended up with his soul scattered. Our strength isn't even as strong as the Devil Lord, and she doesn't have any conflict of interest with us. Why should we provoke her? The Demon King said coldly. Looking at Du Fan and Lung Hua, he said to the Demon Empress, "Let them go. Let them leave as soon as possible." Chapter 4673. How can that be the same? Just listen to me. There won't be a mistake. The Demon King said, "I really want to meet her, but I'm afraid she won't come." The Demon Empress chuckled and didn't take the Demon King's words to heart. Fengjiu listened for a moment and her heart moved. She quietly retreated to a dark corner and took out a talisman from her spatial zone. With a twist of her hand, the talisman flew out. Not long later, her voice came from the direction she came from. "Hand over my people." The voice came from the other side and echoed because of the underground palace. The voice was cold and carried killing intent. In an instant, the hundreds of demons were shocked and quickly dispersed. Not good. It must be that Fengjiu. The Demon King was shocked, and his voice carried a trace of panic. He didn't want to be enemies with Fengjiu and didn't want to fight with her. If they fought their way in, then, "What are you afraid of? I'll go meet her." The Demon Empress snorted and twisted her body like a water snake. She said to the small demons, "Leave a few to watch. The rest, follow me." Yes. As soon as the order was given, the demons followed the Demon Empress and walked towards the palace in a grandiose manner. When they moved forward, Fengjiu flashed and came to the side of Du Fan and Lung Hua. She slashed with the sharp blade in her hand and killed a few demons that were guarding at the side. With a slash of the green-edged sword she put them down. You. The Demon King was originally sitting and sighing when he suddenly saw a red figure flash out. He was instantly shocked. When he looked closely, he saw that the person was dressed in red and had an extremely beautiful appearance. Her aura was restrained, but her entire body was emitting a powerful and intimidating aura. Even though he had never seen Fengjiu before, he knew that this woman was definitely the ghost Dr. Fengjiu. You're the ghost Dr. Fengjiu? The Demon King looked at her, and the face in the mist gradually revealed its facial features. It was not outstanding, but on the contrary, it was a little scary. At this moment, it was staring at Fengjiu. Fengjiu ignored it. Instead, he pinched Lung Hua and Du Fan's Runzhong acupuncture points to wake them up. If she wasn't worried that those demons would attack them, she wouldn't even have to waste an incarnation talisman to lure them away. "Master." When the two of them woke up, they were startled for a moment. They quickly got up, but they felt that their legs were a little numb, as if it was caused by a blockage of blood and qi. "It's good that you're awake." As Fengjiu spoke, he looked at the Demon King and said, "From what you said just now, someone wants to borrow your hands to kill me. Do you know who they are?" As she spoke, she slowly walked forward. Her green-tipped sword, which was suffused with a sharp green glow, was pointed diagonally at the ground as she approached step by step. The Demon King's strength wasn't weak, but he didn't want to be Fengjiu's enemy, so he didn't want to attack. He hurriedly said, "Let's talk things over. Let's talk things over. I want to know, who exactly are those people you're talking about?" Fengjiu asked. As soon as the Demon King's voice was heard, there was a commotion. "Kill them." The Demon Empress' voice was heard, and she ordered the small demons to go forward. The reason why Du Fan and Lung Hua were hid at the beginning was probably because they were careless and didn't expect that it would be these monsters. At this moment, seeing these monsters attacking them, Du Fan sneered and said, "Then let's see who kills who." Chapter 4674. Swish, clang, bang, bang, bang. For a moment, the sharp sound of air currents, the sound of swords clashing, and a heavy sound of attacks resounded in the underground palace. The scene instantly became chaotic. Over 100 demons surrounded Fengjiu and the other two. Green demon blood splattered all over the ground. Screams and roars echoed in the underground palace, lingering for a long time. "Stop fighting! Stop fighting! All of you stop!" The Demon King roared loudly. However, Fengjiu and the others wouldn't listen to him. The demons covered their heads and fled in all directions. Seeing that they couldn't escape, they could only fight to the death. Some of them revealed their true forms to fight. However, facing Fengjiu, Du Fan, and Lung Hua, these demons' combat strength was still too weak. The only ones who could fight against them were probably the Demon King and the Demon Empress. Looking at the dead little demons on the ground, a trace of bloodthirsty savagery flashed through the Demon Empress' eyes. She stared at Fengjiu's peerlessly beautiful face and looked at her body, revealing a strange smile. She spread out her hands and twisted her body, transforming into a snake demon with a human face and a snake body. As the snake body and hands moved, a faint hissing sound could be heard amidst the chaos. Fengjiu looked down and saw snakes slithering out from the ground. Some were as thin as chopsticks, some were the size of a finger, and some were 2 fingers wide. These snakes were brightly colored, and some even had bright crowns on their heads. Just by looking at the color of these snakes, one could tell that they were extremely poisonous. Although the 3 of them had poison-resistant physiques, and even poison couldn't do anything to them, no one was willing to be bitten by these snakes. Thus, when Fengjiu slashed out a sword chi with the Qing Feng sword in her hand, she raised the flame in her palm and injected it into the sword chi. The flame followed the sword chi and suddenly shot out with a whoosh, burning the ground. "Get behind me!" Fengjiu shouted clearly, telling Du Fan and Lung Hua to return to her side. When the two heard her voice, they simultaneously leaped up and quickly came to their master's side. However, just as they stood behind her, they saw a red figure rush out, heading straight for the Demon Empress. Seeing Fengjiu make a move, the Demon King instinctively wanted to help. However, after taking a step forward, he stopped. Ghost Dr. Fengjiu was the master of heaven and earth. Even in the demon realm, he had heard of her powerful methods. Her strongest point wasn't her heaven-defying alchemy skills, but her shocking combat strength. How many experts had to die in her hands for her name, Ghost Dr. Fengjiu, to spread throughout the world? He didn't dare to provoke her, nor did he dare to make her his enemy, because he knew that if he made her his enemy, he would be the one to die in the end. He just didn't expect that the people above would trick them. They sent Fengjiu here. Whether Fengjiu killed them or they killed Fengjiu, it was a win-win situation for those people. But now, things had developed to this point, and he couldn't stop it. He knew that the Demon Empress would definitely die. If he dared to make a move, even he would definitely die under Fengjiu's sword. Chapter 4675. Green demonic blood splattered as the Demon Empress' head was chopped off and flew out, rolling among the demons. One of the demons didn't seem to be able to react as it blankly reached out to catch the flying head. Just like that, it looked at the Demon Empress' head and her eyes that were wide open with fear and unwillingness. It was so frightened that it shrieked. Following that shriek, the little demon instinctively threw the Demon Empress' head up to someone else. This time, No one stood there foolishly to catch the demon head. Instead, they automatically retreated and allowed the demon empress head to fall to the ground and roll a few times until it stopped moving. The surrounding demons didn't dare to make a single sound. They widened their eyes in shock and fear as they watched the demon empress head being chopped off. They watched as the demon empress snake body fell to the ground with a bang and was stepped on by the red-clothed human lady. Then, the green glowing sword in her hand directly and ruthlessly stabbed down. Just like that, she cut open the demon empress stomach in front of all the demons and took out the demon empress snake gallbladder and her inner core. Even if they were demons, they were so shocked by that bloody and cruel scene that their faces turned pale. They swallowed their saliva and retreated, afraid that they would end up like the demon empress. The demon king was also shocked by that scene. It didn't expect that Fengjiu would directly take out the demon empress snake gallbladder and inner core without saying anything. Furthermore, she cut open the demon empress stomach in front of all the demons. That scene and that method shocked even the demon king. Does anyone still want to die? I don't mind sending it on its way. Fengjiu turned around and swept her cold gaze across all the demons before finally landing on the demon king. Being swept by her gaze, all the demons instinctively retreated and didn't dare to make a sound. The demon king looked at the dead demon empress and seemed to want to say something. In the end, it only turned into a sigh. I advised it not to go against you. I didn't expect. Fengjiu looked at him coldly and said, "You have no intention of opposing me. Even if you were a demon, I will not attack you. However, if you want to avenge your demon empress, I will naturally accompany you." The underground flames were still burning. The demons avoided the flames and looked at their demon king. "I naturally do not wish to go against the ghost doctor." The demon king sighed and said, "The demon empress is in the wrong for capturing your men. Now that you have killed her, I hope that ghost physician can be magnanimous and let my little demons go. As for what ghost physician wants to know, I will tell you everything I know." Fengjiu's eyes flickered when she heard this. She glanced at the demon king and immediately waved her hand to extinguish the burning flames. However, as the flames were extinguished, the smell of burnt flesh wafted out from the ground. It was very pungent. "Ghost physician, this way please," the demon king said and gestured for them to enter. Fengjiu saw and followed him forward. Behind them, Du Fan and Lung Hua followed unhurriedly. They followed the demon king to a cave abode. It was a cave abode at the bottom of a mountain. Unlike the underground palace, it looked more like a place where the demon king cultivated. "Ghost physician, have a seat." Chapter 4676. His voice paused for a moment. A trace of hesitation could be seen on his face. Then, as if he had made up his mind about something, he clenched his teeth and said, "I didn't want things to turn out this way. I didn't want to be enemies with the ghost doctor, and I didn't know that they would send her to our demon realm. We only found out after she came to our side. Those people above want us to kill you, and the demon empress didn't even discuss with me before capturing your two subordinates." Fengjiu interrupted him. "I already know all this. What I want to know is about those people who want to kill me. Those four are the four great experts of the immortal realm, also known as the four great emperors. That's all I know. I don't know anything else. After all, the immortal realm isn't a place where we can go," the demon king said, indicating that he didn't know much else. "For great emperors?" Fengjiu's eyes flashed. After a moment of silence, he asked, "I saw a barrier set up in the sky of the demon realm. Now that we want to leave, do you have a way to send us away?" "Of course, I can send you away." Hearing that she wanted to leave, the demon king's heart relaxed. This killing god, he didn't dare to let her stay in the demon realm. Since she was willing to leave, he would naturally send her away as soon as possible. "Then let's go. My flying ship is parked some distance away from here. If you send us away, we'll drop this matter," Fengjiu said slowly, glancing at the surrounding demons. And so, Fengjiu led the demon king, Du Fan, Lung Hua, and the others in the direction of the flying ship. At the flying ship, the surroundings were pitch black. Demon chi was surging in the air, and faintly, there was a little bit of green light floating in the air. The masked man stood at the bow of the ship with the 3 children by his side. Lung Hua also stood at the side, waiting for her master to return. The surroundings were quiet, and no one on the airship spoke. Fire Phoenix landed on the shoulder of Mu Chun and also didn't speak. The 2 cloud-swallowing beasts were lying on the side. Perhaps feeling that the atmosphere was somewhat oppressive, Ewer pulled the robe of the masked man. Feeling his robe being pulled, he turned around and lowered his head to look at the little guy beside him. Seeing her delicate and cute little face, his eyes couldn't help but soften as he asked, "What's wrong? Will anything happen to my mother?" Ewer raised her head and asked. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. Hearing this, his lips curled into a smile. "No, with your mother's strength, even if she were to meet the ruler of the demon realm, she would still be able to win. Then can we leave from here?" Ewer asked again. "Don't worry. As long as I'm not here, nothing will happen. Moreover, your mother is also not someone to be trifled with. So even if it is somewhat troublesome, in the end, we will definitely leave this place safely." He rubbed the head of Ewer and revealed a smile. "Then are the people who want to harm us very powerful? My mother can't beat them now? Since you're so powerful, then do you know where my father is now? When will he come back?" Ewer grabbed the hand that was rubbing her head and threw out one question after another. "Children shouldn't think too much. These questions are useless." He smiled but didn't answer her. Chapter 4677. Seeing the great demon behind Fengjiu, the masked man's eyes flashed with a smile as he muttered, "Looks like things are going to be interesting from now on." The archfiend followed Fengjiu to the outside of the ship. When he saw the ancient mythological beast Fire Phoenix and the 2 sacred beasts, his eyes narrowed. He didn't go in, but said to Fengjiu, "Ghost Doctor, you guys go in. I'll send you guys out." "Okay," Fengjiu replied and brought Du Fan and Lung Hua to the barrier. Mother, you're back. Mother." The 3 children quickly came to her side. Seeing that she had returned safely, the 3 of them revealed happy smiles. "You're back. Let's go. Mother will bring you guys into the cabin. The archfiend will send us out, but the ship will probably still shake." She took the 3 children into the cabin, but she didn't let them stay in the cabin. Instead, she directly sent them into the space. After closing the cabin door, Fengjiu walked out and gestured for Du Fan and the others to sit down so that they wouldn't be shaken out. The masked man stood at the front of the ship. He glanced at Fengjiu and said, "It looks like I still underestimated you." Fengjiu glanced at him and slowly said, "You should be glad that we're not enemies." Hearing this, the masked man smiled and looked at the sky. "Indeed, those who are your enemies should be restless right now." Fengjiu didn't say anything, because at this moment, the archfiend outside the ship was emitting a huge amount of demonic qi. His figure instantly became 10 times bigger, as if he was holding up the sky. He let out a low roar and his hands tore a hole in the sky. The hole was pushed open by the demonic qi, as if it wanted to close but couldn't. The Demon King stretched out his hand and lifted the spaceship that was parked below and sent it through the exit in the sky. As the spaceship was sent out, the opening behind it also closed as if it had never appeared. "We're back." Fengjiu looked at the familiar sky. At this moment, it was already dark, but the sky was dotted with stars. The spiritual energy in the air faintly flowed. The aura was so familiar. She smiled and controlled the ship to fly slowly while walking into the cabin. Not long after, she brought the 3 children out. "Mother, we're back." Ewer happily jumped up and down on the ship. Fengjiu smiled and bent down to pick her up. She looked at the masked man. 2 more days. I'll accompany them for 2 days. After 2 days, you can take them away." She also knew that the current situation was not suitable for the 3 children to be by her side. Even if she was reluctant to part with them, they would have to part in the end. Ewer's mother. Mothers. To her mother two's on her own. Fengjiu sighed softly and said, "Ewer, be good. Mother is doing this for your own good. You saw what happened today. This isn't the first time, and it won't be the last. If you follow Mother, sooner or later, you'll encounter danger again." Ewer listened to her and didn't say anything. Hao and Mu Chun, who were standing at the side, lowered their heads and closed their eyes. It was unknown what they were thinking. Chapter 4678. The masked man curled his lips when he heard the word master from the little girl's mouth. He smiled and said, "Little girl, it seems that you will only call me master when you need my help. Unfortunately, even I am unable to fulfill your request. Why can't you do it? Didn't you say you were very powerful?" You are asked. He chuckled. "No matter how powerful I am, I can't block the light of her star of the phoenix. If I bring her up to the immortal realm, it will really be a mess up there." He looked at Fengjiu and said, "Although I can't bring you up there, you can ascend on your own in the future. By then, you should have the ability to fight with those people. You will only be useful when you ascend. If you ascend now, you can only flee everywhere. Just help me protect the 3 children. I don't need to trouble you with anything else. If I want to ascend, I will naturally be able to do so. There's no need to rush," Fengjiu said. He looked at him and said, 2 days. You can take them with you in 2 days. Okay. He didn't say much and directly agreed. In the next 2 days, Fengjiu spent most of his time with the 3 children. He taught them some things and gave them some things to store in their space as a precaution. They especially cherished the time they had left together. However, no matter how reluctant they were, the day had finally arrived. Early in the morning, the flying ship was still slowly flying. Everyone on the ship gathered at the bow and looked at the masked man and the 3 children. "Mother, what should we do when we miss you in the future?" Earth threw herself into Fengjiu's arms with tears in her eyes. Although Hao and Mu Chan didn't say anything, their eyes were also red. They stood quietly at the side and looked at their mother as if they wanted to engrave her face in their minds. "It's okay. When you get there, listen to your master's words and cultivate. After sending you off, I will also go into seclusion for a period of time. When the time is right, I will prepare to ascend. When everything is settled, I will personally look for you," she said softly, comforting their young and uneasy hearts. "Mother, what about Father? Will Father come with Mother to find us?" Muchin couldn't help but ask. "We will. Mother and your father will come to look for you. So before that, you must be obedient and don't run around. Take good care of yourselves and don't distract Mother and Father." Fengjiu held his hand and then Haoer's. He put their hands together and said, "You 3 siblings must support each other and grow up safely." Yes. Mother, we understand. We will definitely be obedient." The 3 of them nodded heavily as they spoke, their eyes full of seriousness. "You can keep this item. Maybe it can help you in the future." The masked man handed something to Fengjiu. It looked like a seal, but it also looked like an immortal tool. Fengjiu did not refuse and took it with both hands. "Thank you. In the future, the 3 children will have to trouble you." "Okay, then we will go first. In the future, we will meet in the immortal realm." As he spoke, he glanced at Fengjiu and formed an ancient seal with both hands. He pointed at the 3 children's eyebrows. With a flash of golden light, the 3 children disappeared. Chapter 4679. Fengjiu stared blankly as the golden light disappeared into the sky along with the 3 children. Her heart was filled with reluctance and disappointment. She stood at the bow of the ship and watched silently for a long time before returning to the cabin. "I'm going to rest for a bit. Call me when we reach Heavenly Mountain." Du Fan, Lung Hua, and Lung Shuang sighed in their hearts. They also couldn't bear for the 3 little masters to leave, but they also knew that leaving was the best option for them. In the upper immortal realm, in a palace, 4 great experts were sitting together discussing matters. "Didn't you say that Fengjiu was sent to the demon realm? Why did I hear that the demon king sent her back? What the hell is going on? Did you not send someone to investigate?" A man in black robes who looked to be in his 30s asked in a deep voice. His eyes were as sharp as a blade, making it hard for others to look straight at him. Who knew that the demon king would be so cowardly? He didn't even dare to take revenge after seeing the demon empress killed, and instead sent Fengjiu's group away. Another person frowned, his dignified face filled with displeasure. What a waste of such a good opportunity. Fengjiu is the destined phoenix star. How could she die so easily in the demon realm? In my opinion, Fengjiu's life should be taken by us others can't be counted on. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man. He stood up with his hands behind his back and looked at the other three. Just wait. There will always be a chance to take her life. That Xinyuan Mose, didn't he die in our hands? Speaking of that Xinyuan Mose, it's said that the spiritual energy in that world hasn't completely dissipated and is still gradually solidifying. I'm afraid that Xinyuan Mose isn't dead yet. Perhaps he's still recuperating somewhere, waiting for an opportunity. Another person frowned in thought. If that's the case, then it's a bit troublesome. The other person took a sip of the spirit tea and said disapprovingly, "What trouble? If they want to ascend, they'll have to go through 81 heavenly lightning bolts. Are we afraid we won't have a chance to interfere? No matter how strong they are, can they be stronger than the four of us?" That's true. However, the growth of the two of them is too shocking. If they're allowed to grow, they will become the rulers of the world. At that time, how can we still have the status of the four great emperors? A mere little cultivator from the lower realms. Even if he controls a part of the world, if he dares to compete with us, we will naturally not tolerate him. The middle-aged man snorted. If they want to ascend, we'll have to see if they have the ability. They looked at each other and smiled at the same time. They picked up their teacups and took a sip. One of them said, "That's right. We are the almighty beings of the world and the great emperors of the four directions. How difficult is it for us to take the lives of those two? If we want them to live, they won't die. If we want them to die, they won't live either." "Ha! Well said. Come, let me use tea in place of wine to toast you all." Another person laughed heartily and toasted them with a cup of spirit tea. Chapter 4680. They drank spiritual tea and chatted for a while. When they stood up and were about to leave, one of them suddenly stopped and looked back at the three of them. "Speaking of which, it seems that there hasn't been much news about Emperor Qing of Cloud Sky Mountain recently. He has never interacted with us, and we haven't paid much attention to him. Why did you suddenly mention him?" Another person asked. "I just feel like I haven't seen him for a long time. Last year, the South Sea Emperor held a banquet, but I didn't see him. Emperor Qing has always thought highly of himself and never interacted with us. Moreover, I heard that his beloved disciple failed to pass the tribulation and was reduced to ashes. I don't think he'll come out easily. Although we haven't fought against him, I've always heard people say that Emperor Qing is the strongest among all the great emperors. Especially after he came out of seclusion a few years ago, his strength increased greatly." One of them had a serious expression. He sighed softly and said, "But fortunately, he doesn't care about the affairs of all the great emperors and has always been a lone wolf. This is good. He won't get in our way." When they heard this, they nodded and didn't say anything else as they walked out. Emperor Qing's strength was unfathomable, but he was also someone who didn't care about the outside world. Since he wouldn't get in their way, they naturally wouldn't pay too much attention to him. Right now, they still had to deal with Fengjiu. The two titles of the Star of the Phoenix and the Master of the World were really a big threat to them, and the person they were afraid of had already arrived at the foot of Sky Mountain in a spaceship. Fengjiu looked at the snow-white Sky Mountain and said to Du Fan and the others, "Wait for me here. I'll go up and take a look." As she spoke, she got out of the spaceship and headed up the mountain. However, what she didn't expect was that when she stepped into the boundary of Sky Mountain and wanted to go up the mountain, she found that she couldn't. Looking at the boundary that appeared because of her touch, her eyes moved slightly, and she stopped in her tracks. Only then did she notice that the entire Sky Mountain was covered by the boundary. The powerful boundary was like a transparent cover that protected Sky Mountain. She stared at it in a daze, and for a moment, she was a little lost. Was it because of Tian Jizi's death that the boundary of Sky Mountain was activated, or was it because of something else? Is Mo Chun still on Sky Mountain, or had he already ascended to become an immortal? Questions surfaced in her mind one after another. However, she didn't forcefully break through the barrier. Instead, she paused for a moment before turning around and walking towards the spaceship. Not long after Fengjiu left, Du Fan and the others also discovered the barrier that had appeared on Tian Shan Mountain. Just as they were feeling surprised, they saw their master return. "Master, are we unable to go up?" Du Fan asked. Fengjiu shook his head and said, "They set up a barrier. I think they don't want anyone to go up." Hearing this, they looked at each other. In the end, Lung Hua asked, "Master, where are we going next?" Fengjiu looked at the sky, pondered for a moment, and said, "Go back. Next, I need to find a place to cultivate in seclusion. Investigate and see if you can find out where Mose is. If you have any news, inform me." Chapter 4681. In a certain part of the sea, Xianyuan Mose, who was nowhere to be found, was sleeping in the deep sea. He was surrounded by unfathomable seawater, and his whole body seemed to be surrounded by a bubble. He lay quietly in it, motionless. His breath was extremely weak, as if he was dead. In the deep sea, there were some spiritual fish and sea monsters swimming in the depths of the sea. However, they all naturally avoided the place where Xianyuan Mose was. The bubble on his body was suffused with a gentle light, and its breath was extremely strong. The bubble was suffused with a layer of faint cyan light. In the deep sea, if one did not look carefully, they would not be able to detect it. Those spiritual fish and sea monsters in the deep sea did not dare to approach Xianyuan Mose. However, the spiritual breath in the sea seeped into his body, and he did not feel it at all. He just lay there quietly, sleeping in the immortal world at Cloud Sky Mountain. The three children were sleeping in a thatched hut. Perhaps it was the sunlight outside that shone in. However, who was on the bed, opened his eyes and sat up. When he saw the simple and crude thatched hut, he was startled for a moment, as if he had thought of something. After a while, he came back to his senses. Mu Chun and Mu Yu, who were on the other two beds, rubbed their eyes and sat up as well. "Big brother, what's wrong?" Yu asked. Because she had just woken up, her hair was a little messy. However, even her messy hair made her delicate little face look adorable. "Nothing. I just thought that I should get up and cultivate." "How?" said, and looked at the sky outside. The morning sun was gentle and warm. It was very comfortable. He got out of bed and said to the two, "You two also get up and wash up. We'll go outside to cultivate." "Okay." The two little ones responded and got up to wash up. After a simple wash, Yu came to find Hao with messy hair. "Big brother, help me tie my hair." Ow! Had just stretched his muscles and bones, and after hearing the sound, he turned around. Seeing Yu with messy hair coming over, he walked over and said, "Yu, Big brother will teach you how to tie it yourself. Yu properly learn how to tie it, okay?" Hearing this, Yu raised her head and looked at him, then finally nodded her head. "Okay." Yu is so obedient. Hao smiled and praised her. He then led her back to the room and had her sit in front of the bronze mirror while teaching her how to tie her hair. Yu also earnestly watched and learned. Merely, she couldn't help but ask, "Big brother, how come we haven't seen our master since he came back? How could he just leave us here and not care about us? Does he not want us anymore? If he doesn't want us, will he send us back to mother?" Hearing this, Mu Chun also listened attentively. Ever since they came back, they had not seen the person who brought them here and said that he was their master. Moreover, they had been thrown here to live in the thatched hut for a few days. Other than the three of them, there was no one else here. Chapter 4682. Mu Chun and Mu Yu looked outside, and when they saw the Bai Fong divine bird, they didn't say anything. These days, they indeed didn't see their unreliable master, but this divine bird has been guarding them here, and also brought them some spirit feather chicken as food. "Well, Yu, do you know how to tie it?" Hao looked at her and asked. Yu looked at her and nodded with a smile, and Yu knows how to tie it. Moreover, Yu also knows how to braid it. Later on, Yu will tie her own hair. "And that's good, let's go. Let's go outside to cultivate," he said to the two. "Okay." The two followed him out and went to the open space outside, and followed him to learn each and every move. The Bai Fong divine bird, which had been flying in the sky for a while, glanced down at them, then landed on another mountain not far away, watching the three of them gesticulating. At noon, that Bai Fong divine bird on the mountain seemed to have sensed something and looked towards the direction of the main peak, and with a flap of its wings, it flew towards that direction. And at that main peak, the stone door of an immortal's cave slowly opened, and a white figure walked out from inside. His steps were steady and elegant, and along with his walk, his white robe slightly fluttered, as if his body carried an immortal aura, making people unconsciously hold their breath, as if they were afraid of alarming the immortal in the mountain. Other than his outstanding immortal temperament, his appearance was also extremely outstanding. His unforgettable appearance could be said to be a banished immortal. However, his immortal aura was like that of a banished immortal, but because of his pair of peach blossom eyes, it added a bit of evil. His entire body exuded an aura that was both good and evil. His black hair was casually draped over his shoulders, and there wasn't even a hairband to tie his hair, just casually and naturally draped over his shoulders. As he walked out of the immortal's cave, he looked at the sky and saw that Bai Fong Divine Bird had returned to his side. He then hooked his lips and asked, "How are those three little guys?" "They came to look for you after they woke up, but they have been cultivating by themselves for the past few days. They tried to run around, but I stopped them. I let them move around the thatched hut." "Master, do you want to see them?" the Bai Fong Divine Bird asked, tilting its head to look at him. "It's time to meet them. Go and bring them here," he said as he slowly walked to the stone table under the big tree and sat down. The Bai Fong Divine Bird flapped its wings and flew away. When it came to the three children, it stopped beside them and said, "Come on up. I'll take you to see my master." Hearing this, Mu Chun, and Mu Yu were startled. They looked at each other and jumped onto the back of the Divine Bird. Their hands tightly grasped the feathers, and their bodies rose up with the Divine Bird. They looked around and felt the wind blowing against their faces. Therefore, they closed their eyes. After a while, they felt the Bai Fong Bird stop. "We're here. Come down." As the Bai Fong Bird said, it squatted down and let the three children down. The three of them looked around, and their eyes naturally fell on the person sitting under the tree. For a moment, the three of them were slightly startled because they felt that this person didn't look like the master who brought them here. Chapter 4683. Hearing this, the Qing Emperor tilted his head slightly, glanced at her, and laughed in spite of himself. "Little girl, have you forgotten your master?" He turned around, raised his hand, and swept the surroundings, saying, "Then look around. Do you feel the slightest bit familiar?" After hearing his words, Yu Er's eyes widened, and her pair of big eyes seemed to be able to speak as she stared at him. After a long while, her soft voice was filled with surprise as she said, "Master, it doesn't look like it. Although that strange master always wears a mask, I can also recognize that he doesn't look like you. Besides, this is the first time I've come here, so how can I feel that it's familiar?" The Qing Emperor smiled and said, "That body was only used when I descended to the mortal world, and it wasn't my real body. This is my real body. Your mother already knew about this matter, but because her spirit was somewhat unstable after she came back, she had to rest for a few days. So, you're the master that we've worshipped?" Blinked her eyes, still staring at him. She felt that her master's pair of eyes were very good-looking. It was as if he had been smiling all along, making her unable to help but want to smile along with him. "And it's the real deal." He chuckled, glanced at the three of them, and said, 3 days later, Master will remove the blood curse on your body. At that time, your contracted beasts that are suppressed will also wake up. However, Master wants to tell you that you also know that you're in a dangerous situation. There are many people outside who want to take your lives and even use you to threaten your mother. You three little troublemakers have been handed over to me by your mother. In the future, you must listen to Master's words and don't provoke unnecessary trouble. The three of them nodded and responded. In addition, Qing Ming Emperor is Master's honorific name. People outside call me Emperor Qing. You must remember, from now on, if anyone asks who your master is, you must say that Qing Ming Emperor of Cloud Sky Mountain is your master. Master's name outside can also protect you from being bullied by various experts. He said indifferently, looking at the three children. Seeing that they were listening seriously, he was very satisfied. The corners of his mouth slightly curled up, and a trace of a smile appeared in his eyes. And we understand. The three of them earnestly said, secretly remembering what he had said. Also, now that you're under my tutelage, you don't need to use your previous names. I'll give you new names. In the future, when you're outside, you can just use the names I've given you. As for your original names, you must remember not to mention them. Otherwise, you'll get yourself killed. Do you understand? He continued. Master. The three of them. Use master. You curiously. And from, of, be. When he said the name Yun Shi, his eyes slightly flashed, and he looked towards you. This little girl was crooking her head and muttering the name Yun Shi. Seeing this, his eyes couldn't help but soften. Thank you, Master. How? And Mu-chan said in unison. They knew that if they changed their names, no one would know that their parents were Xinyuan Mose and Fengjiu in the future. Chapter 4684. Yes, you'll be called Yin Chi. From now on, I'll call you Little Chi. He smiled as if he was in a very good mood. His entire person looked very happy. How? Glanced at him and felt that the name he gave their little sister was a little strange. Moreover, when he called her by her name, his expression was much gentler. Thinking about how he treated their little sister differently during this period of time and the current situation, he suppressed the doubts in his heart and did not ask. Compared to him, he trusted their mother's judgment more. Since their mother allowed them to acknowledge him as their master and follow him here, it was enough to prove that this person could be trusted. All right, next, I'll tell you about the situation here. He looked at the three children and said, as you can see, there's no one else here other than you three. Therefore, you have to take care of your own food, clothing, housing, and transportation here. This cloud sky mountain is protected by a boundary array, so outsiders can't enter. Similarly, you can't leave either. He looked at the three of them and walked slowly with his hands clasped behind his back. His lips curled up slightly as he said, however, there are also spiritual medicine fields and spiritual fruit trees in this mountain. The ones that usually take care of the spiritual fruit trees and spiritual medicine fields are all puppets that I made. In this mountain, other than my cave residence, Little Seven's cave residence is ready-made. As for the two of you, you can go back and see which place you like and dig your own cave residence. The stone tables and chairs in the cave residence can also be cut down in the forest behind the mountain to make them. In here, you have to do everything by yourself. Of course. He paused and looked at the three of them. If you learn how to make puppets, you can also let the puppets help you do these things. Every half a year, I'll give you a small test, and every year, a big test. I'll bring you out to spar with other people. After 2 days, after the blood curse in your body is removed, I'll accompany you down the mountain and take you to the city to buy some things you need. You can prepare and see what you need to buy. In the future, you can leave the mountain once every 3 months, but I'll only take you this time. In the future, when you go down the mountain, you have to go by yourself. Master, then can we go anywhere we want in the entire Cloud Sky Mountain? The little girl blinked her beautiful big eyes and looked at him excitedly. Yes, you can naturally go to Cloud Sky Mountain as you wish. Emperor Qing nodded and said to her, let's go. Master will bring you to take a look at your cave. Okay, you excitedly answered, then hurriedly pulled her 2 brothers and followed him towards the immortal cave. Following their master, they arrived at an immortal cave. Upon entering that immortal cave, however, Mu-chan and Yu were slightly surprised because this immortal cave looked as if someone had lived here before. Everything inside was very complete. Moreover, at the side of this immortal cave, there was also a small kitchen. Master, who used to live here? Howard asked as he looked at the Qing Emperor, who was looking around the cave abode with his hands behind his back. This is the place where your senior sister used to live in the past. However, she failed to cross the tribulation and turned into ashes. Since then, this place has always been empty. Cyan Emperor said. He looked at you, and said, little girl, you will live here in the future. Chapter 4685. Okay, from now on, you will live here. He rubbed her head and said to her, take a look and see if you are lacking anything. After a few days, we will go down the mountain to buy it. Okay. Yua was all smiles as she answered. How? looked at him and asked, "Master, can you teach us how to make puppets first?" They were still young. So many things were much more difficult for them to do by themselves. If they had puppets, it would be a lot more convenient. Qing Emperor glanced at him and walked out with his hands behind his back. He said, "You all, come with me." They followed him to the side of the stone table outside the cave. Seeing him take out several pieces of talisman paper, he took out cinnabar and a brush and placed them on the table. He said to them, "First, I will teach you how to use talisman to make puppets. For now, it will be easier for you to learn. Look carefully." He glanced at them and picked up the brush. After dipping it in cinnabar, he drew a rune on the talisman paper. He stopped writing and said to them, "Draw according to this rune. You must finish it in one stroke. When you lift the brush, you must pour your spiritual energy into the brush." "Master, can this be used as a puppet?" You curiously looked at that talisman paper. Qing Emperor picked up that talisman paper, activated the talisman, and lightly threw it out. After that talisman landed on the ground, it transformed into a handsome young man. Seeing this, the three children couldn't help but open their eyes wide. Their eyes were full of amazement. "Go boil a pot of water and make a cup of tea," Qing Emperor instructed. That young puppet complied and turned around to prepare to boil water and make tea. Master, how did you do it?" "So awesome," Ewer excitedly said. She stepped forward and said, I also want to learn. Qing Emperor smiled and said, "When you draw a talisman paper and activate it, you only need to think about what you want this puppet to look like, and it will transform according to your thoughts. However, this kind of talisman puppet has a time limit. In the future, when you learn how to make high-level puppets, you only need to stuff some crystal stones on it, and it will always listen to your orders. Moreover, it will also be a very good fighter." He stood up, brushed his robe, and said, "Okay, you all can learn first." He took out some talisman paper from his space and gave it to them. He also took out 2 talisman brushes and some cinnabar. Then he walked to a cool place. With a wave of his hand, a soft couch appeared in front of him, and he lay on it to rest. Although Mu Chun and Mu Yu were young, they were gifted and had always been intelligent. And wise, on the other hand, they practiced Mu. And as soon as he opened his eyes and looked back, he saw her toss out a talisman. As it activated, the talisman transformed into a man. I didn't expect this child's talent and comprehension to be so outstanding. He only practiced for an afternoon, and he actually mastered it? How outstanding would he be when he grew up with such talent in the future? At this moment, he couldn't help but look forward to how amazing his 3 disciples would be when they grew up in the future. Chapter 4686. Mu Chin's eyes lit up with joy when he saw that his brother had finished drawing the talisman. He looked at his brother with adoration. In his heart, he secretly made up his mind to draw seriously and learn as soon as possible. Looked at the person who appeared with a smile on his little face. "Yes, I've learned it. Let me teach you." He stepped forward and stood beside the 2. "Let's stop here for today. It's getting dark, and you've practiced for the whole afternoon. Continue tomorrow." Emperor Qing walked over and looked at the 3. "Do you want to eat fasting pills or roast chicken?" "Master, do you have rice?" "I want to eat porridge." Ewer whispered, "No." He shook his head and looked at the little girl's disappointed expression. "Remember to buy some spirit rice when you go down the mountain in 2 days. You can also let the puppets plant spirit rice in the spiritual fields on the mountain." "Okay, then we'll buy some seeds and bring them back." She suddenly perked up and smiled with her eyes narrowed. Today, they ate roast chicken in the end. Because Hao and Mu Chun didn't have a cave residence yet, they went back to sleep in the thatched cottage. Ewer didn't want to live in a cave residence alone, so she also slept in the thatched cottage with them. The next morning, Hao drew a talisman early in the morning and summoned a puppet to help him open up a cave residence. He and Mu Chun chose a place not far from Ewer's so that the 3 of them could keep each other company. After arranging for the puppet to open up the cave residence, he came back to teach Mu Chun and Mu Yu how to draw talismans. "It should be like this. Look, this is how you draw it." He held a brush and carefully taught. "You must inject your spiritual aura into the tip of the brush. Only with the cinnabar on the tip of the brush will the runes have spiritual aura. Big brother, do you think mine looks like it? Mu-chun picked up his own drawing and showed it to him. It's done. This is already a talisman, and it's a second-level one. Howard smiled and praised. Mu-chun is amazing. Because there was no one else in the mountain, they remembered the names their master had given them. They would use them when they left the mountain in the future. When there was no one else in the mountain, they would still use their old names out of habit. Big brother is the best. He's drawing third-level talismans. Mu-chan said, if I continue to draw, I can also draw third-level talismans. Yes, definitely. Howard nodded. While both of them were talking, Yu earnestly drew a talisman. Merely, the talisman she drew was somewhat crooked. Moreover, it was also relatively small. But she compared the talisman drawn by their master, and finally determined that the talisman she drew was not wrong. Big brother, look, I've also drawn it. I'm also a second-rank talisman. She happily revealed a smiling face and waved the talisman in her hand. On the other side, the three of them practiced the talisman for the entire morning. After familiarizing themselves with it, they let the puppet do some work for them. The three of them planned to take the opportunity to walk around Cloud Sky Mountain and familiarize themselves with the various environments here. At the main peak, when Emperor Qing learned that the three of them had already learned how to draw the puppet talisman, his pair of peach blossom eyes curved, and a hint of an expectant smile appeared on his handsome face. Chapter 4687. The Bifong bird, who was lying at the side, didn't even raise its head when it heard his words. It said, these three people are originally from extraordinary backgrounds, so it's to be expected that they have outstanding talents. Their parents are Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu. How stupid can their children be? We didn't meet Xianyuan Mose this time, but Fengjiu is indeed not an ordinary person. It's only a matter of time before she becomes an immortal. Those people can't stop her. Emperor Qing said slowly as he looked at the sky and narrowed his eyes. On this day, Mu-chun and Mu-yu walked around the entire Cloud Sky Mountain and familiarized themselves with each mountain. At the same time, they also saw the spiritual herbs and some spiritual fruit trees planted in the spiritual fields. They also knew that the entire Cloud Sky Mountain was just as their master had said. Other than the three of them, there was only their master and the Bifong bird. The rest were at most puppets. Big brother, why don't you think master lives alone in such a big place, but he doesn't take in many disciples like others? Wouldn't there be people to work for him? You, asked curiously as she walked while holding her two brothers' hands. Howard held her little hand. As they walked, he said, Master's personality is mild. He has his reasons for not wanting to open a sect and accept disciples. As his disciples, we shouldn't ask too much about things that we shouldn't. Sometimes, knowing too much isn't beneficial. Big brother, Master will help us break the blood curse tomorrow. I'm a little worried. Mu-chun lowered his head and looked at the ground as he walked step by step. Howard gazed at him and said, there's no need to worry. Master's strength is very strong. Moreover, Mother entrusted us to him and allowed us to take Master as our master. So, he's someone that Mother trusts. So, we have to trust him no matter what he does. Don't worry. Master will definitely break the blood curse. Hearing this, Mu-chun nodded in agreement. Hearing this, Yu smiled and said, after breaking the blood curse, Master will let us go down mountain. Big brother, have you thought about what to buy? Without waiting for the two to speak, she smiled and said, I want to buy seeds. I want the puppet to help me grow spirit rice. In the future, we will have spirit rice to eat. I also want to buy a lot of things. Are you going to buy a pot or something? When we cook in the future, we will have to buy those, right? Mu-chun said and looked at Yua. There seems to be a pot in the small kitchen, but we can buy new ones and put some in the space. The three of them chatted as they walked towards the thatched hut. Perhaps because they had company, the three siblings were always together. Therefore, although they were away from their mother's side, as the days passed, they gradually got used to it. The next morning, they woke up early and washed up. Then, they went to their master's abode on the main peak to wait. Today was the day their master would remove the blood curse for them. They were a little nervous, but also a little expectant. How it was fine because the blood curse on him had been broken long ago. Today, it was mainly Mu Chun and Mu Yu. However, what they didn't expect was that even though they had arrived early, their master slept until close to noon before waking up. Come in. Chapter 4688. The inside of the cave residence was very big. Although it was called a cave residence, it was more like a small palace. Moreover, there were several smaller caves, each separated by a certain distance. The walls of the cave residence were illuminated by luminous pearls. There was also fresh air flowing in the cave residence. Obviously, there were other exits. What are you waiting for? Come here. Emperor Qing gestured for the two younger ones to come forward. Mu Chun and Mu Yu walked forward and stopped in front of him. They looked at him, not knowing how he was going to help them break the blood curse. Emperor Qing glanced at the two standing in front of him and reached out to feel their pulse. After checking for a while, he stood up and walked to one of the caves. He said to the two of them, "You two, come with me." Seeing this, Mu Chun and Mu Yu hurriedly followed. However, wanted to follow in to take a look, but was stopped. There are some books in the first cave on the left. Go in and take a look. You don't have to follow. You can't go in, and you can't help even if you come in. Emperor Qing said without looking back. How? Or stopped and stood there watching them enter the cave. Although he was worried, it was just as their master had said. He wouldn't be of much help even if he went in. Therefore, he paused for a moment and walked toward the first cave on the left. Pushing open the stone door, it opened with a creak. After he walked in, the stone door closed. At that moment, it was as if the sound outside was isolated. He looked around and saw that there was a soundproof barrier set up inside. Thus, he gathered his thoughts and walked towards the bookshelves. There were 10 rows of bookshelves filled with books. He went forward to take a look and picked up a book on the mental cultivation method shelf. He opened it and couldn't help but be surprised. This was a top-notch mental cultivation method book. It was divided into the 5 elements. He flipped through it and put it back. Then he walked to the back and picked up another book to read. This was a sword technique book. When he opened the book, some of the sword technique pictures shocked him. He felt that it was extremely exquisite, and for a moment, he couldn't help but be immersed in it. While he was reading the manual, he accidentally lost track of time. While he was engrossed in it, his hands began to move uncontrollably. After an unknown amount of time, the stone door was pushed open and his master was standing outside. Only then did he regain his senses. He hurriedly put the sword back and hurried forward. Slightly worried, he asked, "Shurzuan, how are the two of them?" He looked behind him but didn't see Mu Chun and Mu Yu. The blood curse has been broken, but they have fainted from the pain and are now sleeping in the cubicle. Emperor Qing said with his hands clasped behind his back. His face was paler than before, as if he had consumed a lot of spiritual energy to help them break the blood curse. The exhaustion between his eyebrows could not be concealed. "Master, how are you? Are you okay? Do you want to rest for a while? I'll get you a glass of water." Hao also noticed that his face was paler than before, so he quickly went to the stone table outside and poured a cup of water for him. Emperor Qing glanced at him and didn't refuse. Instead, he reached out to take the water and drank it. Then he handed the empty cup to him and said, "You don't have to worry about the two of them. The blood curse has been broken. Let them sleep, and they will be awake tomorrow. Go and see them, but don't wake them up. I also need a rest." Chapter 4689. Seeing this, Howard hurriedly went to the previous stone room to take a look. As soon as he entered, he saw Mu Chun and Mu Yu lying side by side on the stone bed. Their clothes were soaked with sweat and tightly stuck to their bodies. They seemed to be enduring severe pain. Their lips were slightly bitten by them, and their hair was also soaked with sweat and stuck together. The sweat on their forehead was also not yet dry. He didn't dare to wake them up, so he quietly looked after them for a while. He took out a handkerchief to help them wipe the sweat on their body, and secretly used his spiritual power to help them dry their clothes. Only then did he accompany them. They slept until the next morning before waking up. Muchin woke up first and saw his elder brother lying on the bed sleeping. Just as he was about to get out of bed, Yu also woke up. How did elder brother fall asleep here? Yu rubbed her eyes and asked while yawning. She had just woken up and her little face was still confused, as if she still didn't remember what happened yesterday. "You're awake?" Hao also woke up at this time. Looking at them, he quickly asked, "How do you feel? Are you feeling better?" "Qilin." Mu Chan suddenly called, and with a flash of light, Qilin Beast appeared in front of them. Brothers Qilin came out. "Then can I also call out my little spirit fox?" Ewer said in surprise, and quickly called out, "Little spirit fox, quickly come out." As soon as she finished speaking, the nine-tailed spirit fox appeared with a whoosh. It landed on the bed and looked around. It stretched and said, "Master, the blood curse on your body has been removed. That thing has been pressing down on us. We can't get out." "Great. The blood curse is really removed." Ewer happily clapped her hands and quickly got out of bed, saying, "Today Master will take us down the mountain to buy things, right? Let's go find Master now." After Master helped you to remove the blood curse yesterday, I saw his complexion was somewhat pale. I don't know if he's better today. Howard said, but he didn't stop Ewer from walking out. Who would have thought that when they came out of the stone room, they saw their master sitting at the stone table, drinking tea and reading a book? "Master, Master, Master." Ewer quickly stepped forward, and with a happy face, she walked in front of him. Hao and Mu Chun, on the other hand, stood a little further away. They bowed respectfully and called out to him before standing aside. Emperor Qin glanced at the nine-tailed fox and the Qilin beast and said to them, "Take your contracted beasts back. Don't let them appear in front of others unless it is absolutely necessary." Seeing this, the two of them hurriedly recalled their contracted beasts back into the space. "Master, are we going down the mountain now? Can we go down the mountain to eat something?" You are asked with a smile. The Azure Supreme, the Arch, glanced at them and stretched out his hand to brush the three of them. The three of them felt a cool breeze blow past them. It was as if something had been taken away from their bodies, and they instantly felt refreshed. This wasn't the horsetail whisk technique. "Master, what is this technique?" Ewer curiously asked. "This is similar to the horsetail whisk technique. The difference is that the horsetail whisk technique only removes the dust and dirt on your clothes, but the cleansing technique makes you feel as if you have just taken a bath and changed your clothes. It can save you the trouble of taking a bath and changing your clothes," Emperor Qing said unhurriedly. Chapter 4690. Emperor Qing glanced at her and said, "Although the technique is good, it's not like you don't bathe. This technique can be used occasionally when it's inconvenient to bathe outside. When the conditions are right, it's better to bathe and change clothes." As he spoke, he stood up and said, "Our Cloud Sky Mountain has a total of 2 hot springs. In the future, you can go to the small one to bathe. The spring water of the spiritual pond can strengthen your muscles and bones, making your cultivation twice the result with half the effort. We know about that spiritual pond. We've seen it before. There are 2, one big and one small. However, it seems that there's a formation barrier there." Ewer said, "All right, go back and wash up. Wait for me at the entrance of the mountain." He signaled them to go back and wash up first. "Yes." The three of them answered and left together. They thought that it would take a lot of time to travel from Cloud Sky Mountain to the nearest town. Who would have thought that they would arrive at the city gate in the middle of the morning? However, when the 3 children glanced at their master, they only felt that their master's face had changed a little after they went down the mountain. Moreover, he was by their side, but they easily forgot that he was there. What was even stranger was that they found that after seeing their master's appearance, they would forget his appearance in the blink of an eye. They couldn't remember his appearance no matter how they thought about it. Moreover, it was the same for the 3 of them. They looked at each other and couldn't remember their own appearance. It was as if there was a layer of gauze covering their faces and they couldn't see clearly. "Master, did you use some kind of technique?" Howard couldn't help but ask. Emperor Qing walked with his hands behind his back and said, "That's right. People with ordinary cultivation won't be able to remember your appearance even if they see it. This way, it's a bit safer for you." He paused and glanced at them, saying, "Sometimes being ordinary is a blessing." Hearing this, the 3 of them didn't say anything. Knowing that it was their master's doing, they were relieved. "I'll go to the tea house in front for a while. Whatever you want to eat or buy, you can eat or buy by yourself. When you're done, you can go there to find me." He pointed at the tea house not far away. From the beginning, he didn't plan to follow the three children around the city. All right, the three of them answered. When they were about to leave, they heard their master's voice again. Wait, is there anything else, master? Do you want us to buy something for you to eat? You can rest assured, I will buy it back. Ewer said with a beaming smile. Hearing this, Emperor Qing smiled. He extended his hand from behind his back and placed a Cosmo sack in Hao Er's hand. Take it, buy whatever you want. Don't be thrifty. He paused and said to Hao Er, Yin Shun, you're the elder brother. Watch over them more. Yes, disciple understands. Many thanks, master. Hao Er expressed his thanks, and after saluting him, he left with you, and Muchan. Big brother, let's go eat first. I want to eat scallion pancakes. Also want to eat meat buns. Also want to eat sugar water. Yu muttered while walking. Her voice was filled with joy and expectation. All right, let's go eat first. Hao Er smiled and led the two of them to a small stall. Chapter 4691. In the grocery store. I want 100 jin of spirit rice. Ewer shouted to the shopkeeper. She touched the spirit rice with her eyes shining. After eating, they began to buy things. There were already a lot of things piled up in the space. After searching several stores with great difficulty, they finally found spirit rice in this store. They asked for 100 jin of spirit rice. When the shopkeeper heard this, he was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed. 100 jin of spirit rice? Whose child are you? Do you know what spirit rice is used for? Do you know how much spirit rice costs for 1 jin? You actually asked for 100 jin? All right, let's go play somewhere else. This is not a place where you children can come to play. The things in this store are very expensive. The shopkeeper shook his head and didn't bicker with the children. He just let them leave. How much is 1 jin of spirit rice? Hao Er asked. When he opened his mouth, the shopkeeper seemed to have just noticed that there was a half-grown child. He looked at him and said with a smile, Spirit rice is not calculated by money. It is calculated by crystal stones. 1 jin of spirit rice costs 30 crystal stones. Spirit rice can help one's cultivation, but not everyone can afford it. Generally, one person can only eat a handful. You see, it's like this. The shopkeeper smiled and grabbed a handful of spirit rice. He spread it on his palm and said with a smile, You can cook a bowl of spirit rice here. You don't need to eat anything else. After eating a bowl of spirit rice, you won't feel hungry for the whole day. Instead, you will be full of energy. The three children naturally knew what he was talking about because their mother used to give them spirit rice to eat. Is it cheaper to buy 100 jin? Hao Er asked. Hearing this, the shopkeeper was stunned for a moment. He looked at Hao Er in surprise. You really want 100 jin? When he looked carefully, he found that the appearance of the three children was not very clear. It seemed that he could see that what he saw was ordinary facial features. However, he had been a shopkeeper in this city for many years. He also knew that some strong disciples had some techniques to hide their identity. Thinking of this, he looked at the three children again and had an idea in his heart. I don't have much spirit rice in this store. There are only 70 to 80 jin left. The next batch of spirit rice will be delivered in a few days. If you want all of it, I can give you a discount. The shopkeeper said, Do you have seeds here? You are asked. There are seeds. No matter what kind of seeds there are. The shopkeeper smiled and said, In the entire city, only I have the most complete collection. Whether you want fruit tree seeds, spirit rice seeds, spirit flower seeds, medicinal herbs, or spirit wine, I have it all here. However, I don't buy things with gold coins, but with crystal stones. We have crystal stones, you can rest assured. I want some seeds of spiritual rice, and also some seeds of medicinal herbs. You can look at this list again. If you have, then help us prepare everything. Ewer took out the list she had written long ago and handed it over to him. When the shopkeeper saw the crooked handwriting, he couldn't help but smile. He looked down and nodded. We have everything, but those pots and such are useless. But those are easy to find. Come with me. I'll show you the goods. If you think they're suitable, I'll get someone to pick them out and settle the bill. All right. The three of them replied and followed the shopkeeper inside. Chapter 4692. Little sister, Hao Er and Mu Chan were startled and quickly came to her side to help her up. Seeing the wine splashed all over her body and the blood seeping out of the back of her hand from the broken wine jar, the two men's faces immediately darkened. Ewer was knocked down, and the spirit wine spilled all over her body. Not only was the wound on the back of her hand painful, even her elbow was also somewhat bruised. She hissed, wrinkling her little face. She stood up with the support of her two elder brothers. Before the three of them could speak, the person who knocked her down actually scolded first. "Where did this little girl come from? Why don't you have eyes?" The one who spoke was a 30-something-year-old man. He was wearing black clothes, and his hands were holding a spirit wine jug of approximately 10 pounds. Because he had turned around with his back facing Ewer, and because Ewer was also small, he didn't see her from behind and also didn't pay attention to her. However, he didn't apologize. Instead, he blamed her. Why did you break my spirit wine? This was a top-notch wine. This. When a manager heard the sound, he turned around and saw the spirit wine spilled all over the floor, as well as the broken wine jugs. He couldn't help but look at the three children and then at the green-robed man. "This wine was broken by you, so you have to pay for it." The shopkeeper looked at them and said, "Each person pays half. This is also fair." "Shopkeeper, this wine was broken by this little girl. It has nothing to do with me. You want me to pay for it? That won't do," the blue-robed man said with a fake smile, and was about to walk past the three children to pay the bill. Who knew that when he walked past the three children, Howard glanced at him and suddenly stretched out his leg. The blue-robed man exclaimed. Because he was holding the wine jar in his hand, he tripped and was about to fall to the ground. He hurriedly tried to stabilize his body and turn around. Who knew that he would be knocked to the ground from behind? The wine jar in his hand also smashed with a bang. The spirit wine spilled on the ground, and the broken wine jar scattered all over the ground. That person couldn't dodge in time, and his whole body fell down, pressing on the wine jar fragments. For a moment, only a blood-curdling scream was heard. Hiss! He was lying on the ground and couldn't get up for a long time. Only the sound of gasping could be heard. Looking at this scene, the shopkeeper's eyelids jumped. He calmly looked at the three children and suppressed the shock in his heart. He slightly moved back a step and didn't speak. Howard and Mu-chan glanced at the blue-robed man who fell on the ground and didn't pay attention to him. Instead, they focused their attention on their little sister. "Little sister, let me help you dry your clothes." As Howard spoke, he placed his hand on her clothes and operated the spirit power in his palm. Along with the surge of spirit power, the spirit wine on Yu's body was completely evaporated. Merely, although her clothes were dry, there was still a faint spirit wine fragrance on her body. Chapter 4693. As he stood up, he picked up a shard from the ground and threw it at them. His speed was so fast that ordinary people would not be able to react in time. When the shopkeeper saw the green-clothed man's actions, he couldn't help but be shocked. He couldn't help but take a step forward. Just as he was about to step forward to stop him, he saw the older boy pull his younger brother and sister out of the grocery store, avoiding the attack. "Damn brat, I think you're courting death." The green-robed man chased after them angrily and swung his fist at Howard. "Stand aside." Howard pushed his younger brother and sister to the side and went forward himself. As the spiritual power in his body surged, his peak golden core cultivation strength also burst forth. Such a young child is actually a peak golden core cultivator? Looks like this child is a noble family or a disciple of a large sect. That man is wearing the green robes of the Sky Sun Sect's inner sect disciples, right? He looks like a Sky Sun Sect's inner sect disciple. Why is he fighting with a child? This child is also bold. He dares to fight with a Sky Sun Sect's inner sect disciple. He's not simple. In my opinion, this child may be a direct disciple of a large sect. Look, he's already at the peak of the Golden Core realm at such a young age. Also, he should have a spell on him. I can't see his face clearly. If a Sky Sun Sect's inner sect disciple encounters him, I wonder who will take care of who. An old man standing in the crowd said as he stroked his beard. He watched the fight between the two with great interest. The more he watched, the more he felt that the child's strength was steady and steady despite his young age. Moreover, his movements were strange. He was more and more certain that his origin was not simple. His gaze turned and fell on the two children at the side. The two children were also under a spell. However, with his strength, he could not see through it. That was interesting. The old man withdrew his gaze and looked at the two people fighting. Seeing that the green-robed man could not gain the upper hand empty-handed, he took out a sharp sword. As soon as he took out his sword, a cold light flashed in the little boy's hand, and a sharp sword appeared. "Good sword," the old man exclaimed in a low voice. His eyes lit up as he looked at the sharp sword in the little boy's hand. The sword exuded a cold aura, and the sword energy was sharp and intimidating. It was obvious that it was a rare treasure sword. Especially when the boy held the sword in his hand, the aura around him changed and became extremely sharp. He turned the sword in his hand, and a sword flower shot out. His figure also shot out and attacked the green-robed man at a speed that was too fast for the ears to cover. Perhaps he did not expect that a little child's swordsmanship would be above his. Originally, he thought that he, who was also at the peak of Jindan's stage, would be able to suppress this little brat, even if he was suppressed after showing his sword. He couldn't help but take a few steps back while blocking the sharp sword in front of him. When the two swords collided, the biting cold sword chi burst out and went straight for his eyes. The tip of the sword slashed across his hand, causing his hand to tremble in pain. The sword in his hand also fell to the ground with a clang. His entire body was forced to sit on the ground by the sharp sword that was approaching between his eyebrows. "Don't kill me. I'm a disciple of the Sky Sun sect. If you kill me, you'll become an enemy of the Heavenly Sun sect." He cried out in alarm, immediately using the name of his sect in an attempt to scare him away. Chapter 4694. Cold sweat seeped out of the green-robed man's forehead. He didn't even dare to breathe loudly, afraid that the tip of the sword against his neck would hurt his throat. He swallowed his saliva and asked stiffly, "What do you want?" "Compensate the shopkeeper for the broken items, and then get out of my sight," he said coldly. "Okay." He gritted his teeth, took out his Cosmos sack, and threw it to the shopkeeper. "Is this enough?" The shopkeeper hurriedly caught it and opened it. He took out the shattered spirit wine crystals and returned the remaining ones to him. "It's enough. There's more." Seeing this, Hauer put away his sword and held it behind his back. He shouted, "Get out!" The young man picked up the sword and held his cut wrist. He glared fiercely at Hao, before gritting his teeth and leaving quickly. Good. Amazing. Are all the children these days so amazing? When the surrounding people saw this, they all cheered out loud. Some of them stared at Hauer with burning eyes and asked loudly, "Young master, which sect do you belong to? Your swordsmanship is so outstanding at such a young age. It seems that your master must be a powerful figure too." "Yes, young master." "Who is your master? Does your master still accept disciples?" Another person asked. They thought that if their children could learn half of this child's skills, they wouldn't have to worry about the future. However, Hart didn't pay attention to them. Instead, he walked towards his younger brother and sister and brought them to the shopkeeper. "Shopkeeper, prepare everything for us." Okay. The shopkeeper said with a face full of smiles. He looked deeply at Hauer and said with a smile, "Young master, I'll give you a discount. In the future, if you want to buy things, come to me. I'll give you a discount." One look, and they could tell that he wasn't a simple person. He would be even more extraordinary when he grew up. If they had a long-term relationship, it would only be beneficial to them. At that moment, he personally led them in and prepared the items on their list. After showing them once, he paid the bill. After sending them out, the shopkeeper lowered his voice and warned them, "Young lord, you'd better hurry back to your master or your clansmen. That disciple from the Heavenly Sun sect won't let this matter go. He must have gone to find someone. Since you bought your things, you should hurry back. Go back quickly so you don't run into trouble again." "Okay, we understand. Thank you." How? Thanked him and left with Mu Chun and Mu Yu. They didn't go directly to the tea house because they still had some things to buy. Thus, they went to another street to buy them. Not long after they left, the green-robed man from the sect arrived with a few other men. "Where are they?" The leader of the group, a man in a blue robe, asked. He glanced around with a malicious look on his face. "Senior brother, the 3 brats just now are here. Let me go in and ask the shopkeeper." As the man in blue spoke, he quickly walked into the shop. At this time, his injured wrist had been bandaged, but his hand was hanging limply. The injury had damaged the tendons on his wrist. If it weren't for the fact that their sect had a highly skilled doctor, his hand would have been crippled. Thinking of this, he gritted his teeth, and hatred surged in his heart. Chapter 4695. So it's this young master. The shopkeeper smiled and cupped his hands in salute. He glanced at his bandaged wrist and said with a smile, "Those 3 children have already left after buying the things. They're no longer in our shop." "Left? Where did they go?" the man in green asked. "I don't know." He shook his head. "You just took my crystal stones. Take them out and give them back to me." The man in green stepped forward and shouted, grabbing the shopkeeper's collar with one hand. Thinking of the crystal stones taken by the shopkeeper, he felt a burst of pain in his heart. Young master, you must be joking. Those crystal stones are compensation for the broken spirit wine in our store. How can I take it back to you?" The shopkeeper smiled and reached out to take the man's hand off his collar. He patted it gently and smoothed out his wrinkled collar. Seeing the shopkeeper easily take his hand away, the green-robed man was startled for a moment and his mind wandered for a moment. "Well, since it's compensation, don't mention anything about taking it back." The man in blue glanced at the man in green, then looked at the shopkeeper and asked, "Shopkeeper, did you see which direction they went?" "Yes." The shopkeeper nodded and smiled. He walked outside and pointed in the opposite direction. "I saw them go that way." "Thank you." The man in blue said, glancing at the few people, and said, "Let's go." The man in green reluctantly followed out. After walking for a while, he asked, "Senior brother, why didn't you take back the crystal stones?" Obviously, before he finished, he was interrupted. "Take it back? Huh?" The man in blue sneered and glanced at him. "Which shop in this city doesn't have a backer?" The shopkeeper of that grocery store has a restrained aura. At first glance, you can tell that he is a master. Maybe his strength is above us. You want to take back the crystal stones from him? You are really naive. Are we just going to let go? The man in green was a little unwilling. "Find those 3 brats. Why can't we take it back?" The man in blue said and snorted. "What's more, a 10-year-old brat can reach the peak of the gold core stage. I also want to meet him and see what his background is." Because the shopkeeper had pointed in the opposite direction of the 3 children, their original intention was to find the 3 children, but unexpectedly, the more they walked, the further they went from the 3 children. At this time, after the 3 children had bought all the things, when they passed by the dessert shop, Yura licked her lips like a little gluttonous cat, and looking at that shop with shining eyes, she said to her 2 brothers beside her, Big brother, let's go in and buy some desserts, okay?" "However," and Moo-chun saw her greedy look and couldn't help but smile dotingly. "Okay, let's go in and buy some to bring back." Okay. Then I will pick some more and keep them to eat slowly." Beamed with smiles. Then holding their hands, she happily walked inside. Emperor Qing was drinking tea in the tea house while waiting for the 3 kids. He was looking in a trigram mirror in his hand, which showed what the 3 kids had encountered outside. When he saw the 3 of them holding hands and entering a dessert shop, the corners of his lips curled up slightly, revealing a faint arc. Chapter 4696. At this moment, the green-robed man was walking beside the blue-robed man and said, "Senior brother, could it be that the shopkeeper didn't tell us the truth? We haven't found any traces of the 3 children on our way here." "Then let's keep looking. It's just a few children. As long as they're still in the city, we'll definitely find them." The blue-robed man's voice deepened as a cold glint flashed across his eyes. "Anyone who dares to touch a member of our Sky Sun sect is going against our sect. How can we allow them to be so presumptuous?" Senior brother is right. Those 3 brats are so arrogant. If we find them, they'll definitely... Before he could finish speaking, he screamed and fell to the ground. "Junior brother." The man in blue was shocked. He turned around and when he saw the person who had already stopped breathing on the ground, his face could not help but turn pale. There was even a trace of fear in his eyes. He instinctively raised his head and looked around. The few disciples who were following him quickly surrounded him and pointed their swords at him. They looked around vigilantly, trying to find out who had done it. However, when they looked around, they only saw that the people on the street and even in the shops and restaurants on both sides of the street were looking in their direction. Their faces were filled with shock and astonishment. Obviously, no one had expected that one of them would suddenly be killed while they were walking and chatting. Furthermore, the killer didn't even show his face. "Senior brother, how is he?" one of the disciples asked with a trace of panic in his voice. Dead. The blue-robed man swallowed his saliva and suppressed the shock and fear in his heart. He looked at the tiny wound between the green-robed man's eyebrows. There wasn't even any blood seeping out from the wound, but the person had already stopped breathing. When they heard that the person had died, the disciples were stunned. They turned around and saw a tiny wound between the man's eyebrows. However, they didn't even know what weapon had killed him. "Carry him back, let's go," the blue-robed man said, and asked them to carry the person back to the sect. They had come out to buy things together. Now that one of them had died, it would be difficult for them to explain themselves when they returned. However, his sudden death terrified him. He guessed that it had something to do with the 3 children. Otherwise, why was he the only one who was killed? Could it be that the 3 children had an expert protecting them from behind? They knew that they were going to cause trouble for the 3 children, so they killed their junior brother to intimidate them? They didn't dare to stay any longer. They immediately carried the man and quickly left, wanting to report this matter to the sect as soon as possible. At this moment, the 3 children were still unaware of what had happened. They were walking around the city and putting the things they bought into the space. Perhaps it was because they had bought a lot of things and put them into the space. Along the way, they were being watched by some people. These brats must have a lot of valuable things on them. We've been following them all the way. Other than the 3 of them, no one else has followed them. I think we don't need to wait for Big Brother to come. How about we just lure them to the alley in front of us? A rogue cultivator said as he stared greedily at the 3 children in front of him. Let's wait for Big Brother. Otherwise, it would be hard to explain if something happened. Another itinerant cultivator said. He turned around and grinned. Look, isn't Big Brother here? Chapter 4697. Big Brother. Several people hurriedly surrounded him in a fawning manner. Big Brother, we found a few fat sheep. We were waiting for Big Brother to come so that we can slaughter them. One of the rogue cultivators spoke and pointed to the front. Big Brother, look, the 3 kids in front have bought a lot of things along the way. Their crystal stones seem to be endless. We guess that they must have more valuable things on them. Moreover, they don't have any adults accompanying them to protect them. If we pick on them, we can definitely make a lot of money. The brocade-robed rogue cultivator had a toothpick in his mouth. He was originally thinking about something when he heard his subordinates say so. When he saw the 3 children, he couldn't help but be shocked. Big Brother, let's lure them into the alley in front. These fat sheep won't be able to escape. The person next to him didn't see the slight change in his expression. He was still staring greedily at the 3 children in front of him. If it weren't for the trouble of selling those 3 brats, I really would have put a sack over them and sold them. Sell your head. The brocade-robed rogue cultivator cursed and reached out to slap the rogue cultivator's head. If you want to die, go by yourself. Don't drag me into it. Big Brother, what's wrong? Can't we kill them? It's just 3 children. The person was slapped on the head, but he didn't dare to fight back. He just lowered his head and took a step back. While I went to eat earlier, I saw the older of the 3 children in front. His strength is at the peak of the Gold Core stage, and he even beat up an inner disciple of the Sky Sun sect. You dare to fight with him? Aren't you courting death? Also, when I came over just now, I heard someone on the street say that an inner disciple of the Sky Sun sect died on West Street. As he spoke, a wisp of deep thought appeared in the eyes of the independent cultivator, and he gazed at the 3 children that were gradually disappearing into the distance. He said, those 3 children are definitely disciples of some great sect or clan. Moreover, There's someone protecting them from the shadows. Isn't that courting death? Hearing this, the rogue cultivators were so scared that they broke out in a cold sweat. Their palms were cold as they patted their chests. That was close. If Big Brother hadn't come, I'm afraid they would have died here. However, in front of them continued to walk with his younger brother and sister. After walking for a while, he glanced back and saw several rogue cultivators standing there looking at them and didn't follow them. Seeing this, he didn't bother and took them to buy things again. When it was close to noon, the three of them arrived at the tea house and found their master by the window on the second floor. "Master, we're back." You were happily trotted over, and with smiling eyes, she said, "I also bought something to eat for Master." "Master, quickly try it. This mung bean cake is very delicious." She took out a pastry from her space, opened it, and placed it in front of him. The Qing Emperor glanced at the three of them and asked, "Have you bought everything?" His eyes seemed to fall on the little girl's bandaged hand. "Yes, we've bought everything," Hao and Mu Chen answered at the same time. "Why does little Qi have the smell of wine? Did something happen?" he asked unhurriedly as he picked up a piece of cake to eat. Chapter 4698. Master, Master, it has nothing to do with Big Brother. Big Brother protected us. Yu was worried that he would blame her big brother, so she quickly spoke up. Emperor Qing glanced at her and said, "Didn't I tell you before? Don't expose your relationship outside. In the future, don't call me Big Brother. Just call me eldest senior brother and second senior brother." "Oh," Yu responded and secretly glanced at the two of them. "Do you remember?" Emperor Qing looked at the two of them and asked. The two of them looked at each other and then said, "Yes, this disciple remembers. As senior brothers, if you meet someone who bullies your little junior sister in the future, no matter what the other party's background is, teach them a lesson first. If the other party has the intention to kill you, then kill him before he kills you. Do you remember?" His voice was faint, revealing a cold and breathtaking air, making Hao and Mu Chen's hearts tremble. "Yes, this disciple remembers. Since you've bought the things, then let's go." He stood up, left a gold coin, brushed his robe, and walked out with his hands behind his back. Seeing this, Yu quickly put the pastry on the table that he had only eaten a piece of into her space. Then she quickly followed her two brothers to catch up with their master's footsteps and went to Cloud Sky Mountain. On the other side, the venerables of Sky Sun sect looked at the dead disciple with a dignified expression. It should be a drop of water that killed him, not some hidden weapon. One of the venerables said while stroking his beard, and to be able to control water to kill people from a distance, this person's cultivation is probably unfathomable. Hearing this, another person looked at the blue-clothed disciple and asked in a calm voice with a face full of anger, "Didn't you go down the mountain to buy things? How did you become enemies with others and cause such a big matter? Master, please forgive us." At that time, only junior brother went to buy spiritual wine. The rest of us went to buy other things. This disciple also didn't expect that he would have a conflict with the three children and was even killed. The blue-clothed disciple knelt down and lowered his head, waiting for his master to punish him. "Go to the law courtyard to receive 30 lashes." The venerables shouted in a deep voice. Looking at him, he frowned and said, "Still not leaving?" "Yes, this disciple will go receive his punishment now." He quickly got up and quickly walked out. After he left, the venerables looked at the corpse lying on the ground. One of them then asked, "Who do you think killed him?" "No matter who killed him, otherwise, in the future, everyone will think that our Sky Sun sect." 2. When the person beside him heard this, he pondered for a moment before replying with some hesitation. "That's true, but I'm worried that he might be some hidden almighty. If that's the case, even our Sky Sun sect won't be able to do anything to him. Moreover, if the other party is some hidden almighty, our Sky Sun sect disciples will be offended if we attack his disciples. If he kills them, then so be it. No one will dare to say anything." Chapter 4699. The one who died was his disciple. They didn't want to stand up for him, so they made all sorts of excuses. However, as their master, if he didn't deal with this matter, what dignity would he have in the future? What's more, which of those who could enter their sect wasn't a descendant of an aristocratic family? He also had to give an explanation to the family of that disciple who died. On the other side, Qing Di, who had returned to Cloud Sky Mountain, didn't care about the three children. Instead, he returned to his cave residence. On the other hand, the three children arranged everything they needed to use in the small kitchen, drew some talismans, and made some puppets to help them. They were completely unaware that because of the trouble they caused outside, their master had even killed the disciple of that sect, causing the people of that sect to go everywhere to inquire about them. Unfortunately, it was the three children's first time entering the city. Moreover, they used a spell to cover their faces. Even if the people of the Sky Sun sect wanted to investigate, they couldn't find anything. The days passed peacefully. The three children followed Qingdi and learned. Qingdi taught them according to their aptitude. He didn't teach them the same thing, nor did he teach them the same set of sword techniques. He picked a set of sword techniques for each of them and guided them in their cultivation. He also let them use the sword techniques they learned to compare notes. Compared to how and Mu Chun, who liked to practice the sword, Yu was more interested in studying medicine, perhaps because of her mother's influence. After the puppets plowed the spiritual soil, she personally planted the spiritual herbs and sowed them. She studied according to the books, and if she didn't understand, she would run to her master. Qing Di saw that her swordsmanship wasn't as good as her two elder brothers, and she liked to study medicine. Thus, on this day, he went to the medicinal field and watched the little figure busying herself under the scorching sun. She was obviously a little girl, but she was quite good at work. Seeing her carrying water to water the plants, he called out, "Little Chi, come here." Hearing the voice, she turned around. When she saw her master, she put down the things in her hands and walked over with a smile. "Master, why are you here? If I don't come, you plan to water the spiritual herbs like this?" He shook his head with a hint of helplessness in his eyes. "You're a cultivator, so you need to know how to use a cultivator's spirit energy when doing these things. Whether it's watering flowers or trees, you only need to use a watering technique to nourish these spiritual herbs." As he spoke, his hands slowly formed a seal. Not far away, the water in the bucket surged. As he formed the seal, the water fell like rain onto the Ling fields. "Did you see that? That's it." He looked at Xiao Buddy and beside him and saw that her eyes were wide open and filled with surprise. He could not help but feel that it was funny. "Master, why didn't you teach me this spell earlier? I've been watering it for days." After being surprised, she smiled and pulled his sleeve. Master, teach me again. I haven't learned it yet." Emperor Qing turned around and walked away, saying, "Come with me." He walked slowly and brought her to a waterfall at the back of the mountain. "You can practice here. Also, Master has a set of movement techniques that you need to learn." He handed a book to her and warned, "You must study diligently until you can walk on water without the slightest trace of water on your boots. Only then can you learn other things." Chapter 4700. The Azure Emperor taught her once and then let her learn from books. He then went to see how his other two disciples were doing. There was no sense of time in the mountains, especially when it came to cultivation. It seemed to pass very quickly. The three children immersed themselves in cultivation and gradually got used to the life and days here. 1 year later, in the morning, boom! In the heaven and earth controlled by Xianyuan Mo's, a bolt of lightning boomed. It reached the 9 heavens and spread in the sky, causing the surroundings to tremble. What's going on? What happened? In another heaven realm, a few sovereigns were having a meeting. Suddenly, they heard the rumbling of thunder. They couldn't help but stand up and walk out. "Let me take a look," one of the sovereigns said. He closed his eyes and released his divine sense to investigate. After a while, he opened his eyes. His expression changed slightly, and he said, "It's the ghost doctor who made the commotion. It should be some heaven-defying pill. This is pill lightning." As soon as his voice fell, another bolt of heavenly thunder rang out, and it was still transmitted into their ears. "It's the ghost, Dr. Fengjiu." They were stunned. They looked at each other and listened to the voice echoing in the sky. One of them said, "Hasn't the ghost, doctor been quiet for a few days? I heard she was in seclusion. Why is she refining pills? The Azure Dragon sovereign Xianyuan Mose failed to break through that day. His soul seemed to have been struck by lightning and disappeared. Now, there's only a faint trace of spiritual energy left in the heaven and earth that he controls. A year has passed, and there's still no change. I'm afraid he's really doomed. Compared to whether he's really doomed, I'm more interested to know what kind of pill the ghost doctor refined this time. How did it attract such lightning? One of the sovereigns said. His eyes flashed. He said, she's already a supreme. If she breaks through and becomes an immortal, she'll really live as long as the heaven and earth. After she ascends, she'll become a powerful cultivator in the immortal world. She'll be the great emperor in charge of the heavens and earth. She'll be the supreme of the world. When he spoke up to this point, the monarch's eyes flickered slightly, and a wisp of dim light flashed through them. He said, "Do all of you remember what we said about the Star of the Phoenix?" They were stunned. They looked at each other. One of them said, "We remember, but we don't know what the heaven's limit means. Also, if she ascends and becomes an immortal, she'll live as long as the heaven and earth. But aren't there powerful cultivators up there too? If she really goes up there, does she really belong? In a place where those almighty beings of the upper immortal realm exist, how could he surpass them and become the supreme being of the world?" "Ha, you don't know." Another person laughed. In fact, but they only knew a little about the immortal world. Most of the people in the immortal world were from clans that had been around for thousands of years. There weren't many who could really become powerful cultivators. Sovereigns like them could control a part of the world and become sovereigns. They were like emperors in the mortal world. Chapter 4701. However, if they were to ascend to the immortal realm and did not have a powerful family behind them, they would have no choice but to become a consecrated member of a large sect or rely on an almighty to become their subordinate. If they did not have a powerful backing, they might even be killed in the immortal realm if they were not careful. This was also the reason why they did not dare to attempt ascension, even though they yearned to live as long as the heavens and earth. Those people in the immortal realm were born there and had a higher starting point than them. They did not have to be powerful, but as long as their family was powerful enough, they could do whatever they wanted. As for sovereigns like them, no matter how powerful they were, if they did not have the power to contend against a 1,000-year-old family, they could only endure when they encountered problems. Sigh, I do hope that the ghost doctor can really become the most powerful person in the world. That would be a good thing for us. One of the sovereigns said as he looked at the sky with his hands behind his back and sighed. Since there were people above who did not want Fengjiu to ascend, then her ascension would be extremely dangerous. If she was not careful, she might end up like Xianyuan Mose. Just as they were talking, the third bolt of lightning sounded. Then, everything returned to normal. Based on the ghost doctor's vengeful personality, those people above had better pray that she does not ascend. Otherwise, if she ascends, she will definitely cause chaos in the immortal realm. It's hard to say if those almighty people will be able to keep their positions. Another sovereign said with anticipation in his eyes. While the few of them were discussing, Fengjiu walked out of the pill refining room. Perhaps it was because she had stayed in the pill refining room for a long time. Her clothes were covered in medicinal dregs, and she looked a little unkempt. However, her eyes were very clear, and the light in her eyes was even more breathtaking. Congratulations, Master, on the completion of the magical pill. Lung Hua, Du Fan, and the rest were guarding outside the courtyard. When they saw her coming out, they hurriedly stepped forward to congratulate her. Their faces were filled with joy. Their master had been preparing to refine the elixir ever since he came out of seclusion 3 months ago. It took him 2 months to prepare the herbs, and just refining this cauldron of elixir alone took him an entire month. "Is there any news on the matter I asked you to investigate?" Fengjiu asked as he looked at Du Fan and the others. Reply to Master, "There are already some clues. We were just waiting for Master to come out and report. Just a few days ago, Luo Yu and Gu Mo went to confirm it. If there is any news, they will report back. Du Fan said. Hearing this, Feng Jiu's expression changed slightly. He nodded and said, "Go to the study later and explain everything to me in detail." "Yes," Du Fan replied. "Master, I have already ordered the servants to prepare water for your bath. Please return to your room and take a bath." Lung Shuang said. Feng Jiu responded before walking towards the main courtyard. After taking a bath, changing into a new set of clothes, and eating something, Feng Jiu went to the study. "Master." Seeing her, Du Fan stepped forward and bowed before following her into the study. "How did you find out?" Feng Jiu asked as he sat down at the table. Chapter 4702. Du Fan explained the information he had gathered in the simplest and most direct manner. He then stood there quietly and looked at her, waiting for her decision. When Feng Jiu heard his words, her heart skipped a beat. Her expression was a little dazed as she muttered, "The Eastern Sea Spirit Region. Why didn't I think of that?" As she spoke, she immediately regained her senses and stood up, saying, "I want to go there personally." Hearing this, Du Fan paused for a moment, then said, "Mistress, do you want to wait for Luo Yu and the others to send back news before leaving? After all, this is only our guess. We haven't confirmed whether the Yama Lord is there or not." Feng Jiu shook her head, saying, "No matter if it is or not, I have to go there personally. Go and make the arrangements. We will leave in a moment. Let Ling Hua and Lung Shuang follow us. Let the others take care of their own matters." "Yes," Du Fan responded and didn't stop him. Instead, he turned around and walked out after saluting. "Mo Zhe, is that you? If it is you, why didn't you come back? Are your injuries serious? Or was there another reason?" Feng Jiu muttered, her hand gently stroking a book on the table. That was the book that he used to sit here and read. Looking at this book now, it was as if he had always been by her side and had never left. The Eastern Sea Spirit Region was a sea that stretched as far as the eye could see. Throughout the year, the seawater was so deep that one could not see the bottom. There were also very few waves in the sea. However, in the past year, cultivators had discovered that not only would there be a wave every 3 months, even the beasts in the nearby forest would come to the shore to kneel and howl. This strange phenomenon caused some cultivators to speculate. Could some heavenly treasure have been born in the sea? Or perhaps some divine beast had been born? Or some strange treasure had been born? Quite a few people were tempted. In the past few months, they would avoid the day when all the beasts would kneel down and worship. Instead, they would come to the sea in an attempt to salvage and see if there were any treasures at the bottom of the sea. However, the spirit domain sea was bottomless, and the bottom of the sea was extremely dangerous. Even if there were people with good strength, they would not dare to go down to the sea to search for treasures, especially when there were people who risked their lives to go down to the sea in boats, but were swept into the depths of the sea and died without a corpse. More people only dared to watch and did not dare to take the risk. Luo Yu and Gu Mo traveled for half a month before arriving at the Spirit East Sea. When they arrived at the seaside and saw the groups of cultivators and mercenaries, they couldn't help but look at each other. "I heard that this sea region is extremely dangerous. I didn't expect that there would be so many people who aren't afraid of death coming to join the fun." Luo Yu raised his eyebrows and smiled. He used his elbow to nudge Guimo beside him and said, "Tell me, how should we go down? Didn't you bring the water-repelling pearl? Let's go down that way. There are fewer people there. It won't cause a commotion." As Guimo spoke, he indicated for him to look to the other side. Luo Yu looked in the direction he indicated. He saw that there were rocks half covering the seaside, and there were fewer people. If they wanted to go down to the sea, it was indeed the best way. Chapter 4703. Guemo nodded. He glanced around and said, "Let's go rest over there." Thus, the two of them walked toward a less crowded area. When they arrived at the deserted area, the two of them set up 2 tents on the beach to rest for the night. "Are you 2 rogue cultivators? Are you also here for the treasure at the bottom of the sea?" Just as the two of them were setting up their tents, a few rogue cultivators walked over and sat down on the beach next to them to ask questions. Luo Yu finished setting up his tent and saw a few rogue cultivators sitting next to him. Moreover, They seemed to be preparing to rest next to him. He couldn't help but frown. He said, "This place is huge. Stay away from us. Don't disturb our rest." They originally wanted to go down to the sea tomorrow when there was no one around, so they picked the most remote place on the beach so that they wouldn't be disturbed or noticed. Who would have thought that there would be a few rogue cultivators here? Hee hee, I didn't expect you to have such a bad temper. The rogue cultivators saw that the two of them didn't answer their questions and even thought that they were an eyesore. Their expressions instantly turned cold. They couldn't be blamed for not being observant. Both Luo Yu and Gu Mo were concealing their strength and cultivation. These rogue cultivators weren't very powerful either. Naturally, they couldn't see their true strength. On the contrary, they thought that they were rogue cultivators like them who came to search for treasures after hearing the news. They originally wanted to pull the two of them into their group, but didn't expect to be brushed off. Their expressions immediately turned cold. Compared to Luo Yu, Gu Mo was even more direct. He couldn't be bothered to speak to these people. Instead, he released his aura. In an instant, the rogue cultivators who were standing couldn't help but kneel down under the powerful aura. Cold sweat seeped out of their foreheads, and their faces instantly turned pale. Their eyes were filled with shock. "Are you going to scram or not?" Gu Mo asked coldly. The aura of a powerful cultivator pressed down on them like a mountain, causing them to be unable to straighten their backs. Due to the strength of the aura, the blood in their bodies also started to rush. They faintly felt the urge to rush up to their throats. "Spare our lives? We will scram immediately." The leading rogue cultivator begged for mercy under the pressure. As he spoke, he felt blood flowing out from his throat and on the tip of his tongue. Gu Mo didn't want to take their lives. He retracted his pressure and watched them scramble away before sitting down at the entrance of the tent. TSK, you're amazing. I'll learn from you next time." Luo Yu grinned and patted him on the shoulder. Hearing his mocking words, Gu Mo didn't reply. Instead, he looked at the sea and said, "Say, if the Yama Lord is really here, is he in the sea?" If that's the case, he didn't say anything because he didn't know how to continue. No matter how powerful a living person was, how could he stay in the depths of the ocean and not come out? Unless there was some secret underwater palace or ancient ruins under the sea. Otherwise, how could a person block all six senses and stay in the sea and not come up? Chapter 4704. The two of them were silent as they sat by the tent, watching the waves crash against the sea with the wind. The next morning, when the sky had just brightened, the two of them entered the water from the side. As the water avoidance pearl in Luo Yu's palm spun, the water automatically moved to the sides, revealing a path into the sea. The two of them walked in. After they entered, the sea behind them closed up and returned to its original state. They gradually went deeper and deeper. At first, they could still see the scenery at the bottom of the sea due to the early morning light. Gradually, when they reached the depths, they could only see darkness around them. It was a place where the sunlight could not reach. The depths of the sea were filled with a mysterious aura. As they explored the sea, a few cultivators with higher cultivations on the surface of the sea faintly sensed something. They rose into the air and used their spiritual sense to scan the bottom of the sea. They could not help but be surprised. Someone went into the sea, and judging from the movement of the water, the other party should have a water avoidance pearl. What? A water avoidance pearl? Who would have such a treasure? When the people by the sea heard this, they couldn't help but exclaim. They looked at the sea, but they couldn't see anything. They could only see some faint ripples on the surface of the sea. After a while, they disappeared without a trace. As time passed, Luo Yu and Gu Mo's search area at the bottom of the sea gradually widened and deepened. In the sea, the two of them released their pressure. Hence, the water monsters at the bottom of the sea did not dare to approach them. Furthermore, with the water avoidance pearl protecting them, they were relatively safe. The two of them searched from dawn to dusk. When they reached the bottom of the sea, there was not much difference between day and night to them. Hence, they did not plan on going back to rest. Instead, they continued to release their spiritual sense to search. "Wait," Gu Mo suddenly called out and pulled Luo Yu back. "What's wrong?" Did you discover something? Luo Yu stopped and turned around to ask. Over there. My spiritual sense seems to have encountered something that I can't get close to. Let's go in that direction. Guemo held a luminous pearl in one hand to illuminate the area and pointed in a dark direction with the other hand. All right, let's go there and take a look. Luo Yu controlled the water avoidance pearl to change direction and walked in the direction Guemo had pointed. Under their feet, the seaweed, corals, and rocks of various colors entered their eyes. The water around them was clear and blue, especially under the illumination of the night pearls. It was even more beautiful. With great difficulty, they finally made a discovery. The two of them quickened their pace and headed in that direction. As they gradually got closer, they discovered that they were unable to get any closer. This was because about 10 meters in front of them, there was a powerful aura protecting the central point. Not only were they unable to approach, even their divine sense was unable to penetrate that powerful aura to explore what was in the depths. This aura seems to be the aura of an ancient divine beast. Moreover, it seems to be somewhat similar to the aura of the green dragon, Guemo said thoughtfully. He looked at the dark place in front of him, and his heart skipped a beat. Could the Yama Lord be in there? He looked at Luo Yu and asked. Chapter 4705. Guemo looked at him and asked, Are we not going to investigate? How? That aura is so strong. Can you even get close? And if the Yama Lord is really in there, we can't force our way in, right? If we accidentally hurt the Yama Lord, how are we going to explain it to Master? Luo Yu glanced at the place and said, Let's go up first and leave a sign here. After notifying Master, we'll wait for Master to make a decision. After all, even if we can't get close, it doesn't mean that Master can't. Hearing this, Guemo nodded. Then let's go. Luo Yu held the water avoidance pearl in his hand and rose up with Luo Yu, directly flying up to the surface of the sea. When the two of them flew up, it took them about half an instant's time to fly up from the bottom of the sea and stand on the surface of the sea. I didn't expect to go so deep. If it wasn't for the water avoidance pearl, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to enter this deep sea, Luo Yu exclaimed. After the two of them came out of the water, they looked around and realized that they couldn't see the seaside anymore. Because the sky was dark, everything was pitch black, and their vision was obstructed. Guemo took out a flying ship from the space, and the two of them jumped onto it. The flying ship didn't fly away, but stopped above the place where they came out of the sea. I don't know if Master is out of seclusion. I'll contact Du Fan or Lung Shuang first and inform them of the news we found here, Luo Yu said as he took out his communication jade token. You stay here and guard. I'll go explore and see how far this place is from the seaside. As Guemo spoke, he raised his chi and left on his sword, heading in the direction where his divine sense had detected the presence of people. As the night deepened, some cultivators patrolling the sea found the flying ship. The cultivators who found the flying ship looked at each other and went forward. This is the East Sea Spirit region. We're patrolling the sea under the orders of the South Chung Monarch. Who are you? Why did the flying ship stop in the East Sea Spirit region? If there's nothing important, please leave quickly. Luo Yu, who was communicating with Du Fan and the others, heard the voice and glanced at them. He held the communication jade tablet in his hand and stepped forward. Standing in the spaceship, he glanced at the cultivators and said, I am Luo Yu, one of the 8 leaders of the Phoenix Guards under the Ghost Doctor. I came to the East Sea Spirit region under the orders of my master. You can patrol your seas. Don't worry about me. Hearing that it was actually one of the leaders of the Phoenix Guards under the Ghost Doctor, the few cultivators were startled and carefully sized up Luo Yu. After a long while, they cupped their hands and said, We didn't know that it was the leader of the Phoenix Guards under the Ghost Doctor. Please forgive us if we have offended you. It's just that the Eastern Sea Spirit region has not been peaceful recently. I know about this. However, there are quite a number of cultivators gathered at the seaside. Since you are the Sea Patrol Guards, you should naturally go and deal with them, Luo Yu said in a low voice. His gaze was filled with pressure as it landed on them. Perhaps because the difference in strength was too great, the few of them did not dare to say anything under his gaze. Instead, they bowed and responded and left first. After they went further away, they quickly took out their communication jade and sent the news back.